The S-School is introduced by showing the first-year high school classroom and the main character, Seo Takuya, who seems nervous. He holds a Kiramon eraser, exclusive to loyal supporters, and it is explained that he is not a typical otaku, but one who loves anime made for young girls. Then they explain what the Kiramon anime is about, while the protagonist, embarrassed, says there is no reason to use the eraser, but that he still brought it to school. However, he is interrupted by a young girl who asks to borrow the school supplies. Nervously, the boy asks the girl to wait, but she insists, claiming it's just for a second, and the boy cannot refuse. Ijiki-san and Amain-san are introduced, two female classmates of Seo Takuya, whom he cannot stand. Holding the eraser, the girl asks if the drawing is a Pokemon, but the boy explains that it is not and talks about the series. Uninterested in the explanation, the blonde girl jokes that the design looks like a Pikachu, while he continues to explain that it's a kepi that appears in episode 4. But unexpectedly, he is corrected by Amain, who in a superior tone says that it appears in episode 2. The boy is surprised while it is explained that otakus cannot help but quickly and effectively correct others. Ajichi becomes excited about her friend talking about the topic and says she understands a lot, but the girl defends herself, saying that her little sister loves the anime. However, the protagonist becomes doubtful and suspects that his classmate might secretly be an otaku, given her familiarity with the girl's anime. Confused, Seo Takuya believes there is a slight chance the girl is a fan of the same show as him, but he needs to be sure and decides to talk to her. Before he can say anything, the girl starts yelling at him, saying he misunderstood everything and that only her sister likes it. Embarrassed, the boy admits he misunderstood, while Amain insists that she is certainly not an otaku and ends the conversation. The protagonist apologizes but asks if she wouldn't be interested in a limited edition Kiramon keychain. When he takes the item out of his pocket, the girl freezes in the middle of the hallway. She comes back and looks at it, realizing it's Irochi, something special from the early hours of the first volume of the comics, and says she searched for it but couldn't find it. Quickly, she realizes she's giving herself away and corrects herself, claiming that her sister had been looking for the keychain. But Seo Takuya is convinced of his theory. After giving the gift to the girl, she's extremely happy. But she mentions her sister again, saying that her sister would love the keychain, promising that the next day she would also give the protagonist something. Later, Ajiki appears and asks her friend if this is about what the otaku was talking about earlier, called Kiramon. Lying on one of the desks, the protagonist realizes that the two are talking about his favorite anime. Looking at the keychain, the blonde girl says it's cute and that she might end up interested, asking them to tell her the story of the show. Trying to control himself, Seo Takuya thinks that this is the request every otaku dreams of hearing, and that this could become an invitation to talk about the story and favorite character, being a divine blessing for someone wanting to discuss the plot. Still immersed in his thoughts, the boy thinks that, innocently, the girl guided the conversation naturally, as if by divine intervention. Then he wonders how Amain will handle the situation and realizes his friend can barely hold on. Nervous, the girl thinks she wants to say something, but if she speaks, they will discover she's an otaku. While Ajiki notices her nervousness and asks if she said something strange. Trying to calm her friend, she says there's nothing weird, and explains that it was such a good question that she froze, thinking of an appropriate response, promising to show her friend what it's about the next day. The girl is confused as she thought Amain didn't like the show, but then she explains that her sister is the fan, while Seo hears everything. The next day, the protagonist holds a pen, reflecting on everything he heard the previous day. But his thoughts are interrupted when Ajichi grabs his eraser again, while he says she could ask to borrow it. Takuya says he's happy she's talking to him, but dislikes how close she is, while the girl notices the eraser is different from the previous one. Excited, she asks if the character is Rizuku. Then the protagonist realizes that the girl watched the manga, while she explains that the work was borrowed from Amain. Excited, he begins to talk about the comic book version and the adaptation of the story, giving details of what happens. At the same time, the boy feels guilty, believing he messed everything up, but she's completely focused and says she wants to hear what he has to say. He gets embarrassed and can barely utter a word. Suddenly, the girl states that her classmate resembles Ropeman, the protagonist's friend in the story, but the boy believes there's no resemblance at all. Even so, Ajiki insists, saying he does look like him because he has cute, round eyes. Embarrassed, the boy turns red while the girl laughs at what just happened, but Amain approaches, asking if the topic is Kiramon. Another day, the long-haired girl is talking about dieting with her companions. Along with her, other girls also talk about being careful not to overeat and about cosmetics until they ask her how she spends her money. Amain almost mentions Kiramon accessories but stops mid-sentence enough for Seo to notice her response. However, the two girls notice an accessory on the long-haired girl's bag, and when the protagonist looks, he realizes it's something from the anime. In ecstasy, he believes the girl is indeed an otaku, but she claims she is not. Once again, the girl says she doesn't know what they're talking about. She goes on to say she's only using it because her sister begged her to, leaving Seo even more confused about everything. Trying to get some information from the girl, the protagonist asks if she hates Kiramon, and she asks if it isn't obvious. But she regrets it, and softly says she loves the anime, but not to the extent of being an otaku. as she only watches what her sister does, concluding by asking not to be misunderstood. On their way out, the two are joined by Ajiki, who asks if they're going out together, leaving Seo completely baffled by everything. Even so, he asks to take a closer look at the item the girl has in her bag. The next day, trying to be friendlier, Hajiki asks if her friend has an Instagram account. He gets nervous and asks why she's asking, but she says it's just out of curiosity. Then the boy says yes, but that his profile is private for his own sakes, since he doesn't want others to see it. But suddenly, the blonde girl manages to find her classmate's profile and says it was already logged in earlier. Looking at his profile, something catches the girl's attention. Quickly, she asks if all those posts are about Kiriman, while Seo recalls other times he was excluded for his interests. Sad, he thinks he will now be bullied for being weird, but the girl says that it's really cool. She goes on to say that his profile is amazing and asks if a drawing posted there was made by him. The boy is surprised that his friend didn't find it strange, while she continues to say she respects his interests a lot. Seo doesn't know how to respond, while Ajiki gives him some tips to improve his Instagram profile. Before he can say anything, she takes a photo with him. She says she'll post the photo and occasionally retake the selfie, asking him not to delete her from his profile. Later, the Kiriman episode starts, explaining that it will cover the death of the character Patchy. Emotional, the protagonist feels sad about the character's death in the anime and reflects on the decision to kill him off. Because of this, he ends up sleeping for an entire day. But he still needs someone to share his sadness with and wonders on his way to school if a man watched the episode. When he enters the classroom, he notices the girl looking upset. She takes a deep sigh and Seo notices tears on her face, concluding that she also cried for Patchy. Two other boys observe Amain and comment that she looks prettier than usual. Ajiki goes to talk to her friend, asking if she's okay since she seems to have a sad vibe, but the girl says it's because she argued with her sister. The blonde tries to console her friend but finds it strange that she's so upset over an argument, while the protagonist listens and believes he understands what's happening. Something catches the girl's attention when she hears the word Patchy, causing her to shout in the classroom. Everyone falls silent and looks in her direction. The boys who were talking ask if she also plays the game and that she can add them if she wants, but Seo knows which Patchy she's referring to. Another episode of Kiriman begins while the protagonist watches. One of the characters catches his attention for resembling Ajiki a lot. The next day at school, the blonde enters the classroom saying good morning. Quickly, several people approach her and start talking about various topics. Takuya thinks he cannot mention that she looks like the idol Miki, given that she is very popular and the center of attention in the school's social groups. However, he can't stop thinking about it and wonders if the girl knows something about the character and if Amain might have said something. After class, the boy packs up his materials and reflects on how he spent the entire day looking at his classmate, only to be interrupted. Ajiki says she noticed the boy glancing at her all day. Embarrassed, he apologizes and says he has no strange intentions, so the girl asks why he was looking at her. To get out of the situation, the protagonist says it's because she resembles the character, and she becomes a little curious to find similarities. Trying to mimic the girl, Ajiki repeats a line from the anime. Amain appears, asking if she was trying to imitate Miki, and says she doesn't look like her at all, while Taku thinks it was pretty cute. The two girls remain surrounded by people since they are popular, and many invite them to go out or to karaoke. Even though these aren't part of the conversations, the protagonist listens to the groups talking about his classmates. He feels like they live in different worlds but says he doesn't mind. Then he remembers that soon the random Kiriman figure will be released, and it's a one-time chance per person, making it a rare item. Quickly, after class, he goes to the store selling the items to try and buy one and get the rare figure. Upon arriving, he finds Amain and Ajiki. Desperate, the girl says it's not what he's thinking. Again, she claims it's a gift for her sister, but Seo interrupts, asking if they weren't going out with the other boys. The long-haired girl says the group got too big, so she left, while Ajiki says she just followed her friend. Confused, the protagonist wonders if the two don't like things like dating. Then he decides to ask if the girl wants to buy the product with him, increasing their chances of getting the rare item. He watches and notices Amain and Ajiki whispering. Trying to interrupt, he approaches but is ignored. Giving up, he decides to return once the two leave the store. As he leaves, someone pulls on his backpack. The two friends ask him to wait. The blonde says she wants him to come with them to buy the figure, while the other asks if they can trade if he gets vamp. Embarrassed, Kakuya accepts the invitation and thinks that GYARUS can be nice to Otakus. After buying the figures, Amain is happy to have gotten what she wanted, while Ajiki obtained the secret item. Days later, the protagonist reintroduces himself while his friends talk about a story posted by Maikini Senpai. The two also discuss how the basketball team captain confessed to Amain. Steel listens to the conversation but thinks it's none of his business and that he shouldn't be eavesdropping. He also thinks the talk about boys proves the girl isn't an otaku, but when asked about her type, the girl is quite specific. Amain says she likes slim, pale, blonde guys but also ones who look good with black hair. Without a doubt, she's describing Vamp, one of the Kiriman characters, which excites Takuya, but he realizes there are plenty of similar people in real life. Even so, the girl decides to be more specific and says her type must have sunlight as a weakness. Noticing her friend's gaze, she says it's not what he's thinking, while he defends himself, saying he didn't say anything. Whispering, the two continue talking, and Siu asks if she really doesn't like Vamp, while Ajiki asks what they're talking about. Later, the blonde asks to borrow a ruler from Takuya, but he feels annoyed by the way she's talking to him. Acting smug, she claims all the boys would love to lend her things and that Siu could have the honor. But a teacher enters the classroom. The protagonist realizes he forgot his book, but knows he can't say anything since class has already started. Even so, he thinks it's risky to leave the desk empty, so he decides to place his math book instead, while Ajiki asks to borrow his red pen. Looking at the desk, the girl discovers the book isn't for English and says the otaku is foolish for thinking he'll fool the teacher, leaving the boy in despair. Before anyone could notice, the girl raises her hand and says she forgot her book, and the teacher tells her to sit with someone. Quickly, she says she will share with Siu Takuya. After sitting next to her friend, she whispers that it was funny how he tried to cover up with the English book and that now they can do the assignment together. She explains that she did it as a thank you for always being able to borrow his things. The protagonist feels relieved as he realizes what just happened. At another moment, it's Sunday and the boy goes to a shopping mall to watch the Manhwa show. He arrives at the rooftop plaza and the place is still empty. Confused, the boy wonders if the anime shouldn't be more popular, but suddenly, someone in the area catches his attention. Looking closer, he realizes it's a main san in disguise, but the girl says he has mistaken her for someone else. Even so, Takuya asks if his friend would want to trade the characters from the distributed freebies. Dropping her disguise, the girl confirms and says she wants Vamp, agreeing to trade. Of course, she again mentions her sister, saying she came because her sister got sick and couldn't attend the show. The conversation is interrupted as the presentation begins and Siu becomes ecstatic, drawing attention. Then the boy notices that Amain is very calm, but she says there's no need to lose her head. However, a new guest is announced. Vamp Grand appears, causing the girl to completely lose her composure. The show ends and the two enjoy the event with the anime characters. After the event, the protagonist complains about the heat and heads to a convenience store to buy a cold Coke. But he is surprised by Ajiki, who asks what he's doing there. He doesn't understand what the girl wants to know and says he's going to buy a Coke, while she says he can get it for half the price. She grabs his arm and pulls him into another store. Inside the store, the girl tests various products, gets her friend to try on some clothes, and then they decide to leave. The two leave with the Cokes. Triumphantly, the girl says they got 2 Cokes for 150 yen, but it was the boy who paid for both. She answers a phone call and says she's heading to karaoke. Watching the scene, the protagonist thinks what happened felt like a date with the girl, but quickly convinces himself it's just in his head. Saying goodbye, Ajiki says she'll have another date with him soon. He concludes that it really was what he was always thinking, and the Coke was the sweetest thing he'd ever had. Another day at school, he and his new friend are talking about Kiraman, and Amain joins the conversation. The trio continues their discussion, sticking to the group's favorite anime, including the comic book version of the story. Ajiki suggests that after class, they all go to Otaku's house to pick up the book and continue the conversation. Amain says it's a bit weird to go to a boy's house, but her friend reassures her, saying it'll be fine because the boy is Siu Takuya. She then asks if he's going to do anything weird, and he assures her he won't. He goes on to say that the girls can't come over because his parents will be there, but the girls keep insisting. Takuya mentions his Kiraman drawings, making the girls even more eager to visit his house. Later, the two friends are already in his room asking about the anime drawings. Nervous, the protagonist reflects that the two most incredible GYARUS are in his room and he doesn't know how to act. Trying to ease the tension, the girls say he can enter the room first and tidy up if there's anything they shouldn't see. Inside the room, the two look at the boy's items and notice he has a limited edition Earth Sama prize. Siu grows more nervous as he realizes there are 2 girls in his room, unsure if he'll survive the situation. Ajiki starts messing with everything, already feeling at home, increasing the protagonist's anxiety, who says they can grab the disc and head home. But he's interrupted by the blonde, who says it's much better to do everything in his company. Feeling increasingly flustered, the boy becomes confused and says the two shouldn't watch the show with him since he gets very excited during it. Such information makes Ajiki even more excited and even more eager to watch the event with her new friend. Amain interrupts but then defends herself, saying that she always watches with her sister. She gives details about what she does, mentioning that she makes some fans, dims the lights, and other things to watch the episodes. The blonde becomes even more enthusiastic and says she wants to see this new side of her friend and watch the episodes with both of them. So everyone decides to sit down and watch together. Siu becomes even more excited, realizing that not only are the 2 girls in his room, but they are sitting on either side of him. On the screen, Miki appears and says she will accompany Sachinko. As they follow the episode, everyone becomes emotional about what happens, while Ajiki grows increasingly animated. The episode continues playing on the screen. Nervousness, tension, and suspense take over the trio watching the anime. Thinking to himself, Siu feels that it's so cool to talk to someone about Kiraman and to fully embrace his otaku side. But his thoughts are interrupted by Amain, who warns him about the next scene. While talking, the girl touches the boy's shoulder and gets a little nervous about the situation. He reflects on the differences between the 2 friends and thinks he has never seen the brunette get close to a boy before. The boy says his heart can't take it anymore. After all, it's dark, the girl smells good, and he can't focus on what's happening on the TV. Quickly, he is interrupted by the girl, who asks if he was paying attention to her. Embarrassed, he apologizes and says it wasn't his fault, then notices Ijiki taking a photo of him while being questioned by Amain about why she's doing that. The trio decides to take a break, and the blonde decides to open the curtains. She announces it's time to post the photo she took of the boy on Instagram. But before that, she asks if her friend wants to take a look at his profile. Amain agrees and asks the boy to show his account. Feeling awkward, he tries to change the subject, but the girl keeps insisting on checking the account. He agrees but says she shouldn't be disappointed, and she reassures him. But something catches her attention as she looks at his profile. Quickly, she asks if his username is Otaku Ocean, and he is surprised since his account has only about 50 followers. Amain says she knew because she has always followed that account. She explains that she found him while searching for Kiraman drawings, but her explanation is interrupted by Ajiki, who says the two seem to be talking about something secret. After some time, Siu feels compelled to teach the brunette friend how to draw while she moves closer to him. She asks to use the drawing tablet and begins to open up more, revealing her otaku side until the protagonist realizes he has left the blonde aside. But the girl doesn't seem to mind lying on her friend's bed. Nervous, he reflects that the girl looks quite sensual but apologizes for not being a good host. Ajiki says she's already used to it, noting that Amain is always popular and everyone gets close to her. Her friend says the same applies to Ajiki since the blonde is also popular at school. Even so, Siu thinks he inhabits a completely different world from theirs, as they are practically celebrities while he's just an ordinary boy. But Yamajiki asks which of the two girls is his type. Completely nervous, he shouts, unsure of how to answer. He then decides to say that he is dedicated only to Sachiko, a character from the anime, as choosing one of them is out of the question. The day comes to an end, and the two girls say goodbye to their friend, thanking him for the afternoon they spent together. Before they leave, the protagonist says he wants to thank them both. He states that it was the first time he had so much fun and hosted friends at his house, but he apologizes for not being a good host. However, Ajiki interrupts and says he's being too formal with his friends. She adds that thanks to him, she got to see Amain in full geek mode, and Amain also thanks him for the great afternoon. The two say goodbye, promising to see him at school. On their way home, the girls chat about how much fun the day was. Both find themselves thinking about the boy, believing he is sincere, polite, and intriguing. They conclude that he might actually be cool. They remember that before they left, the protagonist's mother appeared, embarrassing him and making the girls leave more quickly. After his friends left, the boy returned to his room. He felt the space was emptier than usual and concluded that this is the feeling of friends leaving after spending time together. Quickly, he senses something in the air and realizes it's an overwhelming perfume that still lingers. It feels like he is still surrounded by the two girls. The boy tries to change his train of thought, knowing he can't give in to such a perverted scenario. He decides to draw to stop those thoughts. However, an imaginary Amain-san appears. Exhausted, the boy decides to sleep to try to forget. When he gets to his bed, he sees an imaginary Ajiki-san and panics, thinking he's a prisoner in his own room with no escape. Someone appears, greeting him with a good morning. Suddenly, he finds himself face to face with his new friends at school again. Both ask if he's okay, while the boy says he couldn't sleep a wink all night. Later, Amain asks about Ajiki, and Takuya says she mentioned she would take care of some things. He decides to learn more about the girl. He asks which anonymous account was used to follow him, but she simply replies that it's a profile she uses to like things she finds embarrassing. Sia realizes she just gave herself away and that the account isn't used by her sister. He concludes that this is indisputable proof that they are both otakus, but the girl still doesn't confirm it and says the boy hasn't tied up all the loose ends of the story. Even so, she admits the account is hers and that she uses it to show content to her sister, who doesn't have a phone. Trying to corner her, the protagonist says he thought he had found someone to talk about Kiraman with but was mistaken. Regretful, the girl reveals that her account's name is Teikoku Shujo. Before the conversation could continue, another girl stops at the door and invites her friend to go home together, but the girl asks the boy to talk to her there. Another episode of Kiraman begins. Takuya says he's more nervous than usual about the broadcast. He's going to discuss the episode in real time with Amain while watching until he receives a message from her. He's ecstatic about the message and thinks this is the real her. Pondering, he reflects that the girl is completely different from how she appears at school, even though she's still just a gyaru. The discussion about the series episode continues, and the next day it's already time to go back to school. Seo says he can't believe that the calm, cold girl is the same person he spoke with the day before. But his thoughts are interrupted by the girl, who says the previous day was amazing. She continues, suggesting they do the same plan again, but they are interrupted by Ajiki, who says that kind of talk isn't suitable for school. Later, Takuya finally finds the pillow cover he's been searching for, the one that had fans drooling with anticipation and frustration. None of the anime stores knew when they'd restock it, but he finally found it in the children's section of the mall. Suddenly, a child bumps into the boy, and his attention is drawn to a woman who says her siblings are rowdy. Looking at her, he realizes it's Ajiki, who is also surprised to see her friend there. Explaining, she says she's helping her mom as her family is large and she needs to assist. With a changed look, she catches her friend's attention but becomes embarrassed as he's seen her without makeup and with her hair down. Without hesitation, she says she has a favor to ask. She wants him to keep what he saw that day a secret. He agrees, but two boys appear, asking who the boy is. Ajiki becomes tense, and the boys ask if he's her boyfriend. Embarrassed, she tells her brothers to shut up and apologizes to her friend for the situation. The next day at school, the boy shares that he found the pillow cover he was searching for. Meanwhile, the blonde stares at him, reminding him with her eyes not to mention what happened, but she's shocked to see that the two follow each other on Instagram. With tears in her eyes, she says she also wants to join their social media group. Seo asks if she's sure, and the girl says yes, adding that she didn't follow him before because she thought he wouldn't like it. Still talking about a main, the protagonist says the girl always replies to him quickly, which makes Ajiki furious since, in her experience, her friend always takes forever. The blonde declares that she will also start messaging the boy, and he says it's fine because he really enjoys talking about Kiraman. Later, Seo is on his way home and now truly feels like he's friends with the two girls until a message arrives, leaving him surprised. Looking at his phone, he realizes both have invited him to hang out over the weekend, and he's unsure how to respond. Nervous, he wonders if the invitations are for a date. He doesn't know what to do since he can't accept one and decline the other, wishing there were two of him. On the weekend, the two girls are together, and Ajiki asks if the solution was for all three of them to hang out together. When he arrives at the outing, the boy is surprised by how cute the girls look and notices they seem different from usual. The protagonist thinks about telling them they look pretty, but doesn't have the courage. Meanwhile, the two girls whisper about how they both want to spend time alone with the boy, but they decide to go along with the group outing. However, Ajiki suggests alternating the outing, leaving her friend alone with the boy for a while before coming back. Seo gets nervous about the suggestion and asks what she's talking about, but she's determined and tells them not to go overboard. Amain apologizes for her friend, but the two head to Animate, where a fan book is being released. As they walk, the boy notices more people looking at the girl than at school. However, two boys interrupt the pair. They start mocking the two's friendship, and the protagonist realizes they're GYARU boys. Amain steps in and says they're perfectly fine without the intruders. Worried, Takuya forgets that his friend is a cold queen who exudes a certain aloofness from others. Regretfully, she apologizes, saying she's aware her actions can intimidate people, but she doesn't want to seem tough. Seo tries to reassure her, saying she was amazing just now and calling her an otaku for the first time. The girl gets a little emotional but says she's only there because of her little sister. After arriving at the fanbook section, the girl announces she got 3 copies of the first edition and celebrates. But she notices something is off with her friend, who says he knows exactly how she feels in that moment. After their outing, the two wait for Ajiki at a cafe while continuing to chat. Seo seems to feel a bit unwell but says he's just dizzy from being in such a fancy and flashy place. He then asks more about the girl's sister. She confesses that in reality, she's an only child. Takuya gulps, but Amain continues her story. She explains that the sister is actually the daughter of her mother's best friend, whom she considers very close, easing the boys' worry that she might be imaginary. Justifying herself, the girl says it's a hassle to explain this every time, so she simply says it's her sister. Seo says he'd like to meet her. Confused, Amain asks if he wants to visit her house, but he says that's not what he meant. The protagonist gets nervous, insisting that wasn't what he was thinking, trying to justify himself, while the girl simply reflects on the outing they just had. She takes the initiative, says it's fine, and invites him to her house again, reassuring him. However, Seo gets nervous again, thinking about being alone with his friend. The two sit in silence until Ajiki arrives right on time. Now it's time for the outing with the blonde, and the two are at a park. Confused, the otaku asks what they'll do there, and his friend says they'll find their own fun. Using filters, Takuya's mouth gets hilariously large, making everyone laugh. Noticing her friend's surprise, Ajiki explains it's a TikTok filter and says she'll make him go through plenty of embarrassing moments. More filters are tested, with only the girl laughing. He suggests taking a photo of her, but she refuses, saying only he will be photographed. However, she agrees to appear if he records a cute 15-second dance with her. With the phone recording, the two dance. But soon, Ajiki bursts into laughter at the boy's movements and expression, leaving him embarrassed. The protagonist asks what the dance is called, but the girl says she doesn't know while writing on social media that it's a couple's dance. The two head toward the cinema and spot a machine filled with Kiraman merchandise, exciting the boy when he sees they cost only 200 yen. Sitting next to her friend, the blonde asks if there's anything else he loves besides the anime, but his response is always other mangas. Persistent, she says she wants to know about girls. The question makes the boy a little nervous, and he says that someone like him is unfit to be in a relationship. Then he realizes that maybe his friend likes him, while she says she has much more fun going out with friends or family. However, she adds that she's a little interested in him and would like to have a one-on-one date with him sometime. She then decides to call Amain, who is still there, to join them for the movie. Seo feels confused and doesn't understand if the blonde is really interested in him, while the brunette notices her friend's face is quite red. Whispering, she calls out to Ajiki. She asks how serious her friend is, and Ajiki responds, as much as you are. However, both realize that the otaku's real focus is entirely on Kiraman. The two begin to argue while the protagonist notices what's happening and looks over, trying to understand. At another moment at school, the blonde says she's trying to remember a new Kiraman that came out last week. She says it's the 7th in the mechanical type line in the series, and someone quickly identifies it as single boy Jack, surprising her. The conversation continues, and the blonde asks if her friends are excited about the midterm exams. But she notices they don't seem thrilled. Seo says that exams are impossible for otakus, while Amain says that since she's not part of that group and is good at Japanese, she thinks she'll do fine. Takuya asks how she did on the April test and assessment, mentioning that he scored about 300 points. Trying to console her friend, Aijiki says she can do better next time, but Amain asks her how many points she scored. Confidently, she responds that her total was around 423. She adds that she aced English, while the protagonist remarks that his friends are full of surprises. During class, while some are studying, the protagonist thinks the sketch he made of Rocketman turned out great. The teacher continues explaining formulas, while some people comment on Amain's calm demeanor. As the class ends, the teacher asks if everything will be ready for the test the next day. After class, Seo continues thinking about his drawing and whether he should color it. At karaoke, the girls are having fun with their other friends, singing and picking songs. The next day before the test, Takuya feels proud for organizing his Kiraman shelf, but thinks he's forgetting something important. Meanwhile, Amain is reading an anime romance and seems very happy in the moment. Ajiki is listening to music and realizes she correctly guessed the song they sang earlier. When they receive their test scores, it's revealed that the protagonist scored 22 points. The brunette scored 16. Meanwhile, their third friend scored 44 points. Frustrated, the duo asks how her score is so much higher, and she says she simply pays attention in class. Seo believes his friend is truly an excellent student. He asks how she can be so smart, and the girl says she just listens in class and reviews occasionally, while he asks for her help with the history test. Wearing glasses, she leans in to take a look at his question. Noticing this, he gets embarrassed and says the glasses were unexpected. She explains that she only wears them for close-up work, and he remarks that she looks completely different from the last time he saw her. They continue talking about the test, and the girl keeps explaining what might or might not be on the exam. But she notices the otaku isn't paying attention as he's staring breathlessly at her, and she assumes it's because of the glasses. Panicking, her friend says that's not the problem and tries to convince her to keep wearing them. He insists that the glasses make her look incredibly cute and that they took his breath away, leaving her a bit startled. Quickly, she turns forward, tells him to stop flirting with her, and says she needs to concentrate. Facing the front again, Aijiki becomes thoughtful about what just happened. After class, the protagonist overhears some students talking about preparing for the test, with only 5 days left until the final exam. Seo becomes pensive and thinks he might be doomed, but all he wants is to find refuge in Anon. While watching Kiraman, he feels he needs to embark on a journey to regain his focus and remembers the library. He tells himself that if Sachiko is giving her best, so should he. At the library, Amain and Aijiki notice their friend is there. They approach and ask if he's going to study, and the boy's response surprises the blonde, who says her friend had said the exact same thing. Since they are in the same place, they decide to study together. The girls study and concentrate, but Seo can't find his focus and starts to panic. Looking at the clock, it's already 5 p.m., and it's time for Aijiki to go home. Noticing her anxiety, Takuya asks if something happened, but she says she just needs to make dinner. Amain and the protagonist are left alone in the library, and the blonde reminds him that they should study and not talk about Kiraman the entire time. 10 minutes later, the duo is already having a drawing battle, sketching anime characters from memory. A bell rings, signaling the library is closing, and the two leave, thinking of more challenges. Arriving home, they both realize they had a very fun afternoon, while Amain laments not winning any of the battles. When they arrive at Amain's residence, both reach for the intercom at the same time, lightly touching hands. Both are startled. Seo quickly pulls his hand back and apologizes, saying it wasn't intentional, while the girl reassures him that it's no big deal. They try to justify themselves. The situation creates an awkward silence between them, and the air feels tense. Before they truly say goodbye, the boy says he'll see her at school the next day, but she seems to have something more to say. She asks if he'd like her company on the way. The boy is a little confused by the invitation. Amain reiterates, asking if he'd like to grab something to eat, and he replies that he would. However, realizing she might have given the wrong impression, the girl explains that she just wanted to continue the Kiraman battle. At her house, Sue asks for permission to enter, and they go to her room on the 2nd floor. He notices that he's alone with her in the house and knows he'll need to stay calm. Before entering the room, he asks for permission again. Nervous, he reflects on being in a girl's room, making the girl feel embarrassed. She says it's the first time a boy has entered her room. They both fall into complete silence. Then they decide to talk about Kiraman to break the ice and return to their earlier relaxed mood. Despite trying to appear calm, the boy's heart is in chaos. He asks to see the girl's Kiraman collection, and she says she doesn't mind. But first, she asks him to close his eyes. Seo's mind wanders, but when he opens his eyes, the girl is holding an object. He goes crazy when he sees the Milky Way Predator with a limited acrylic stand, and the girl says she got it with her little sister's help. Then someone opens the door. it's the little sister, who says she's the one who tolerates her older sister's fascination with Kiraman. She warns him not to get the wrong idea about being the girl's boyfriend, but is interrupted by Amain, who says he's just a friend. She decides to make introductions. Her little sister is Amemiya Sayu, a third grader at Higashi Elementary School. The little girl explains that when her older sister's parents are busy, she helps by preparing dinner. She adds that she doesn't care about Kiraman anymore, having grown out of it back in elementary school. Amemiya says she introduced the anime to her sister, but that their interests soon diverged. She concludes that she still wonders about people who can't let go of the story even in high school. She continues calling Seo her sister's boyfriend, but he introduces himself as a classmate, failing to convince the little girl. The two sisters continue discussing the boy's status. To lighten the mood, Amain says she's really into Vamp Sama and can't think of anyone else but him. But Amemiya, convinced, firmly says her sister would never bring someone she didn't like to their home. Being ushered out of the room, the little girl says she'll help prepare dinner since that's the rule of hospitality. After kicking her sister out, Amain apologizes for her behavior but warns Seo not to put broccoli in the curry. The two decide to resume the Kiraman battle. The rules are reviewed and Amain believes she'll win easily. However, if she does, she promises to grant the boy anything he wishes. Seo hesitates and the girl accuses him of being a pervert. Before starting, he says that if he wins, he'll take the limited edition Miss Luna acrylic stand. The two stare at each other, pondering the challenges ahead, and the boy asks not to be compared to Kiraman's with questionable traits. It's time for the challenge to begin. Both start drawing and Seo declares that with some doubt, he won. Since she lost, the girl jokingly suggests something perverted could happen, as long as she stays covered from the shoulders down, but the boy tells her to forget the bet. Later, Takuya says goodbye and thanks her for her hospitality. He says he had a lot of fun, and that he got to see a different side of Amain-san, while the little sister looks confused about what he meant. Before the boy leaves, Amemiya whispers that she'll entrust her older sister to him. She continues saying that her sister tries hard to appear mature, but her heart is still that of a young girl. But it was obvious how much she enjoyed herself that afternoon. Seo reciprocates the sentiment, saying that in the future, he hopes they can all enjoy each other's company again. After the boy leaves, the two sisters talk about how sincere and polite he is and how, even as an otaku, he's easy and comfortable to talk to. Amemiya says that could also be called love. The two continue discussing whether Amain likes the boy, while he overhears everything from near a wall. The next day, the midterm exams arrive, and the results are out for the students. Seo realizes his total score was 291 points, thanks to Aijichi's help, and he asks how his two friends did on the test. The blonde says she scored 408 points and then asks Amain. Amain says she failed one subject but wanted to at least beat the otaku, which she couldn't. Annoyed, she calls him a traitor and demands to know what happened with his score. Trying to calm her friend, Aijichi says she beat her in one area, winning over Otaka-kun. She explains that the two have gotten closer over the past few days, while the boy listens, confused about what competition she's referring to. Regardless, Aijichi invites him to hang out after school. Confused, he asks if it's for a movie and agrees, while the brunette seems a little upset about being left out. After school, the blonde is excited about her outing with Takuya. She becomes frustrated when she realizes the movie she wanted to watch has already ended, and he suggests they watch Phantom of Love. But a movie called Zombies vs. Sharks catches her attention. The boy says it'll probably be super trashy, but it'll be fun, so they decide to watch it. Aijichi says that next time she'll pick the movie. On the screen, several sharks begin to appear. Seo regrets the choice and says he won't blame her if she falls asleep. But when he looks over, the girl is crying. He admits he couldn't focus on the movie because he kept watching her. Afterwards, she says it was fun and that she loved the choice. The two head to the food court at the mall, where the girl keeps talking about the movie and how it broadened her horizons. She says she'll tell Amain about it the next day. As the conversation continues, the girl asks if he went to Amain's house, and he asks how she knows. Quickly, she says Amain told her. Aijichi says it was clear Amain didn't want to talk about it but shared a little about what they did. Still, she wanted to hear it directly from her friend. After his explanation, she says it was a bit unexpected that he went to the girl's room. She then invites him to her house, pointing out that he's already met her younger siblings. She insists that she wants the otaku to visit her home. The boy asks why. Annoyed, she says it's not fair for him to only have fun with Amain. The two decide to have fun and head for a video game battle. Aijichi launches an attack on her friend and laughs when she wins the competition. Curious, he asks how she's so good, and the girl explains that her brothers loved the game, so she learned to play. Passing by a machine, she points out the one-ton choco, saying she's never managed to win it. But she's surprised when the protagonist says he has won it before. She asks him to try again, saying she wants to see it, and he agrees without hesitation. Focused, he tries to grab it, and he succeeds again. It's time to leave, but before they go, Aijichi suggests they take a picture in the photo booth. Seo says he didn't know people still use photo booths since social media has become so popular. The girl notices her friend is more comfortable with taking pictures now and doesn't blush as much when looking at her. Paying close attention, he notices that she painted her nails earlier, and she's surprised he noticed. Takuya stays calm and says that he previously couldn't look people in the eyes, but now he has improved his relationships with others. He thanks Ajiki for her help. On the way back, she thanks him for the chocolate and he says it is for her to share with her siblings. But the girl's distance catches the young man's attention, and he asks why she is staying away. He asks if he was intrusive when he mentioned her nails, and she says no. The two continue on their way. That same night, Amain is watching a movie. She was watching Ghost of Love. The next day, the group gathers and the brunette asks which movie the other two watched. Without hesitation, Ajiki answers, surprising her friend with the choice. The blonde says she wanted to recommend it to her friend, but the brunette states she doesn't like that type of movie. Even feeling a bit jealous, the girl feels relieved. But her friend keeps talking about the photo booth pictures, making Amain feel a bit more jealous about the situation. The trio continues chatting, and he notices a photo from the booth falling and grabs it. When he looks, he sees it is the girl with another man, which makes him a bit startled. Nervously, Ajiki says she needs to go to the bathroom quickly, and Siu wonders if the girl has a boyfriend. He feels confused by all this information while Amain also tries to figure out the mystery and suggests it might be an older brother. However, she knows the girl's siblings and has never seen anyone resembling him, so she decides to ask the girl directly. The two think it could be a sugar daddy since the man is older. The girl's reaction continues to draw attention, and they think she might be in trouble and decide to help if it's something serious. Embarrassed, the blonde observes the two through the door and apologizes for not telling them earlier. She says it is her older brother. She continues explaining that the photo fully exposes her little sister complex, and she thought it was weird for her friends to see it. Both feel relieved that it was nothing serious. The trio looks at the photo again and agrees that there's nothing wrong with it. She explains about her siblings, but the conversation is interrupted by the teacher. However, Amain says she wants to talk to Ajiki. The friend states that no matter what happens, the girl can count on her because she is very special, and the little girl thanks her. As they leave the place, Ajiki says her friend is very nice and that it's easy to see why Otako-kun is in love with her. The protagonist feels relieved and says he's happy with what happened. He affirms that talking to both of them sincerely is something very valuable. And he concludes by saying it's too early to fall in love. But Ajiki says she is ready to fall in love. Seo feels a bit confused and wonders what changed, as the friend had said she didn't want anyone before, but she claims she's just joking. The school sports tournament is approaching. The blonde says she's unmotivated since she's not good at sports, but Amain believes it's her time to shine. Takuya says the girl doesn't need to prove anything, but she says the next day will be interesting. In the girls' basketball game, the brunette plays well and everyone is shocked by her skills, even people from other classes. The girl's popularity grows. People start saying she had once been a national championship standout and had always been very cold, surprising her friend. The group talking about her says the girl seems unapproachable, but even so, her great friend shouts words of encouragement. Amain responds with a signal. Everyone is astonished to see that the girl smiled. Later, Sia watches the table tennis tournament and Ajiki is playing, making the protagonist doubt her claim that she's bad at sports. He feels happy that there are people watching and that there are more men in the audience. The game begins and all eyes are on it. Takuya says you can tell his friend is trying hard even if she's not very good at the sport. Later, it's time for baseball and Siu is playing. He tries his best and is later congratulated by his teammates. The group decides to have fun since the opposing pitcher is a former professional team member. But Amain and Ajiki are watching the game, and the team is surprised by the girl's presence. Initially, the pitcher thinks the two came because of him, but the two want to see their friend Otaka-kun. In the basketball game, many people congratulate the young athlete. Even though she is good, the girl had a special motivation. She believes she needed to impress her friend with her performance. Since she didn't feel as intelligent as Ajiki, she thought she needed to stand out in another area. While thinking about the boy, she continues playing basketball. A great shot allows her to finish the game. All the girls rush to hug her and celebrate the victory. Focused Amain doesn't even realize the game has ended. Laughing, her teammates say that such focus must be love. She is shocked and tries to explain, but they say it's love for basketball. Embarrassed, she agrees while the others insist she should join the basketball team. Celebrating their performances, the two girls suggest the trio go to an all-you-can-eat barbecue. A bunch of students from volleyball, basketball, and soccer, the coolest groups in school, will also go. Even so, Amain says she's unsure if it's her scene, but is convinced to go. However, the boy says he has another commitment. He explains that he's been invited to karaoke with the baseball team. The girls are happy he was invited and celebrate with their friend. Amain feels frustrated, claiming she wanted to go with that plan. Ajiki asks if her friend wants to go somewhere with just boys to get closer to otaku, and she says she's never had the chance to sing Kiraman's songs in karaoke. Trying to cheer her up, the blonde suggests the trio go to karaoke together soon. The brunette feels happy and says she'll think of places they can visit in the summer, and Siu feels excited. Before saying goodbye, the two call out to the boy. They ask him to keep a few days free for the trip, but they first need to pass the final exams. On the day of the end-of-term event, the teenagers invite the girls to go out with them later, but both decline the invitations because they have another commitment. Now at Takuya's house, Ajiki suggests they start singing, but the boy asks if they had planned this. Amain turns to him and says they had agreed to it, but the boy comments he thought it would happen during summer vacation. Embarrassed, he says he thought they would go out with other people and didn't want to interfere. The friend tells him not to think that, as both of them wanted to be there with him. Ajiki agrees with her friend and says they could go out with others another day, but now they were with him, so she hands him an instrument. Holding the instrument, he realizes they were right and had been waiting for this. Determined, he says he'll give it his all that day. The girls get excited and let him choose the song they'll sing. They end up sitting very close to him, making him embarrassed. The girls notice that since the room was small, there wasn't much they could do. Trapped between the girls, Siu finds it impossible to sing, so he proposes to sing last. Amain says he already sang with the boys, and he says he barely managed then. During the conversation, the Gyaru decides to take the initiative and sing first. Still nervous, the boy asks if he could just play since he doesn't know many songs. The girl tries to calm him, but he only knows anime songs. When the song appears on the TV, they notice it's from Kiraman Pets. Takuya and his friends scream desperately that she can't sing that song, surprising her. Smiling, she says she's been practicing at home, touching the two with her dedication. The boy notices that her voice is similar to Mickey's, even the way she messes up the lyrics reminds him of the character the first time she sang. After finishing, she apologizes for messing up the lyrics, but the two say it was amazing and even imagined the character singing alongside her. When otakus are moved, they lose the ability to think, so the two begin saying how incredible it was without being able to say much. Clapping, he tells the girl it was great and comments that he dedicates his life to loving her, leaving her surprised. Her friend starts saying she knows that episode, and they start talking about it. Hearing this, Ajiki begins to feel nervous. Now it's Amain's turn, and she starts looking for a song she's wanted to sing for a while. He asks what type of songs the other girl sings, and she comments that she likes modern songs, maybe J-pop. The girl asks if the chosen song is from an anime, but the boy doesn't know it. The other girl says she's not familiar with it either, but heard it once. The lyrics seem like they're for Chapter 6, a typical otaku looking for songs that fit their favorite character. When she looks to the side, her friend is looking at her in surprise. Then she says her sister claims she wasn't involved in that or anything. Then with emotion, she starts singing the song to suffer, to be strong and noble. The boy says the lyrics are beautiful, and the girl mentions she's never seen her sing with such emotion. He looks at the lyrics and also associates them with the character. As she sang with emotion, she said that part was so much like the character that she couldn't breathe. Noticing the stares directed at her, she tried to explain herself, embarrassed. However, her friend simply said it was beautiful, and once again Siu thought it was unfair for a Gyaru to be an otaku. Finally, it was his turn. He still thought it was impossible to sing between two girls, but they had already gone, and he was really enjoying it. Both girls were commenting on how he might surprise them and steal their hearts. One of them thought he might sing a different type of song, while the other believed he could break through their defenses if he sang something that wasn't from an anime. The song he chose was from the anime Kiraman. With determination and strength, he started singing and performing the song. When he looked at his friends, he noticed they were staring at him in surprise. Seeing their expressions, he thought it was over. He felt he had been arrogant to let them see the ugly side of an otaku, and believed he had drifted further from them. At that moment, they called his name. With emotion, both began asking if they could sing with him. All three of them started singing at the top of their lungs and were exhausted by the end. Ajiki said she was hungry, and her friend remarked it was time to do something. It was a call for battle. The loser would pay for food for the others, making the boy nervous. She suggested singing something they hadn't sung before. Amain smiled and told Takuya that his singing had surpassed hers. Grabbing the microphone, he said it wouldn't be for long and that he was in the game since a typical otaku hates to lose. After singing their songs, the girls scored 84 and 86 points. Looking at them, the boy thought that besides being good singers, they were incredibly beautiful. He felt lucky to watch the most popular girls in the class sing, and paying for some fries would be a small price to pay. He thought he had already lost when it was his turn. They started discussing the songs and scores to help him get oriented. Siu began singing while the girls analyzed his performance, commenting on how he reached the romantic part of the song. Both of their hearts skipped a beat as they watched him. His score was 70 points, and he commented that he failed compared to them. But with their hearts still racing, they told him he did well. Sometime later, everyone was eating while Ajiki still held the microphone. Takuya asked if she wanted some food, but she asked him what he would drink. The boy said he would have a Coke. Excitedly, the girl said she wanted the same. While returning with the drinks, he thought about how much fun he was having with them. However, he realized he didn't know whose cup was whose. He tried to remember which hand held his cup but couldn't be sure. He began to panic about the situation. He considered buying new cups when the girl grabbed a cup from his hand, thanked him, and drank it without noticing his surprise. She noticed his gaze and asked if there was something in her drink. He tried to defend himself, but she demanded the truth. After hearing everything, she wondered if it was an indirect kiss, but reassured her friend by saying she didn't mind. He thought it was expected that she wouldn't care about such things. However, Ejichi's heart started racing as she stared at her cup, blushing. The boy called her attention, and nervously, she said that cup was hers. When he told the other girl what happened, she thought she had never cared about such things before. As they left the place, one of them said it had been so much fun. Ajiki, excited, said the summer break was starting and asked if they had any plans. Her friend said she had some plans and asked the boy. It was a festival that would feature some celebrities, and he believed he knew that festival. The girl said they would still have time to do something with her, so she suggested a barbecue by the sea. She got excited and Seo asked if the invitation was for him. The other girl said the more, the merrier. Her older brother hosted it every year, and her 2 younger brothers would also be there. She asked her friend to bring her younger sister, and the friend said she'd ask. Then she asked the boy to come too. He said he would love to go and thanked her for the invitation. A little while later, the day arrived and he had a minor meltdown upon seeing them in beachwear. A main said she didn't know how to swim, and the other told her not to worry since there was no other place to wear beach clothes, while the boy tried unsuccessfully to look elsewhere. Half an hour earlier, they were looking for the family. Ajiki called out to them, and the boy thought her brother looked intimidating. The man was Genichiro, while the boys were Kakeru and Hibiki. Amain, her sister Amemiya, and Seo also introduced themselves. The girl called the other 2 to put on their beachwear, leaving the boys alone. One of the younger brothers mentioned the girl's ex-boyfriend, and nervously, he said he wasn't her boyfriend. Genichiro appeared, saying the other guy was just a friend of his sister, and in a threatening tone, asked if that was correct and if he would take responsibility for touching the girl. Innocently denying it, the man then asked if he had laid a hand on them, leaving the boy confused about how to respond. Back in the present, Aijiki started asking Seo what he thought of her outfit, and looking at her nervous brother, he said it was genius. He pulled the girl away to start the barbecue, and he thought it was nice to see her as a younger sister. Amain asked if it was okay not to help, and Seo commented that they would just get in the way, so it was better for them to play with the boys. Amemiya told the boys she knew what he thought about her sister and repeated his thoughts, scaring him. The older sister scolded her for her behavior. Then the little one asked if they could make an arena like in Chapter 7 of the Kiraman Anime. The teenagers got excited about the idea since it was a legendary chapter. The crab statue from the anime was completed. The youngsters were happy with their good work, but the little one thought they could do better. She began giving orders to improve the statue. Amain apologized to the boy for involving him in this, but he said he could do it all day, while the little one observed them. As they had fun, the older sister noticed her younger one taking pictures and asked her to wait until they finished the statue. Then they realized what she was doing. The boys wanted to play, while her sister shouted for them to be careful. Then they stopped in front of the boy, saying he had won chocolate at a game center. Grabbing the ball, Kakeru said he was determined, making him nervous. The 3 began playing with the ball and a water gun. He ended up losing to the 2 and realized they had a lot of energy. Ajiki said Seo could get mad at them because at that age, they didn't know their limits, but the boy said it was fine. He mentioned he was an only child, so it felt like having younger brothers, making the little ones comment that he seemed like a good guy. Smiling, one of them asked if they could bury him, and everyone loved the idea. After a while, Takuya was completely buried, thinking at least everyone had fun. With him buried, the boys decided to play volleyball, losing interest, and the girl thanked him for playing with her brothers. When one of them bumped into her while playing, she fell on top of him, startled. Both were surprised, and while the older brother talked about the meat, she felt embarrassed by the situation. Once he was unburied, he and the others decided to eat the meat that was already ready. Kakeru and Hibiki asked why he wasn't beside their sister since they were dating, and Amemiya commented that he matched better with hers. The children started to squabble. They called the girl for a fight to decide whose boyfriend he was, and she accepted. Both said their sister had a picture with Takuya on her phone, and the girls said they tried something in the room while the 2 nervously defended themselves. Finally, the girls started arguing with each other. The kids began arguing about their rankings in games, and the girl told them that if all they had were gaming achievements, it was pathetic. With that remark, the 2 admitted defeat, and the boy thought she knew how to get back at them. They began thinking of ways to fight while the sisters tried to calm them down. Amain told her sister she had gone too far, but the little one said she didn't mean to fight. After her sister's words, the little one approached the boys to apologize for what she had said, surprising them. The boys were embarrassed, leaving the sister wondering what was going on. Noticing her sister's tone, they began asking what she meant and listening to everything. A man thought how nice it was to be young. The chaotic barbecue somehow turned into a great experience for everyone, and time flew by. Ajiki asked the brothers to stand with Amemiya for a picture, and they asked why. The other girl said it was so they could remember this moment. As the girls got ready for the photo, Genichiro put his hand on Seo's shoulder, saying only 2 remained and that he'd like to ask something. Then he asks which of the 2 girls he likes more. He gets nervous, saying that they were good friends but stumbles while speaking. Then the other asks which of the 2 he would go on a date with. The boy thinks about saying he would accept an invitation from both, but he doesn't say it. Then the other says not to worry, the only thing was that he should be careful and respectful. The girls were popular, so they attracted unpleasant guys. As an older brother, it was natural to be concerned about them, and he wouldn't forgive someone with other intentions. Seo says he understands and that if someone does something that makes them sad, he wouldn't forgive them, even if it were himself. After hearing that and being surprised, the boy becomes nervous and apologizes. The other says it's fine and apologizes for the harsh words, saying that if it were him, everything would be okay. Then he tells him to take care of Kotoko, and the other agrees. He says he has nothing else to add, only that he shouldn't make a woman cry. The other says he wouldn't even think about it. They were fine until the girl says she cried a lot because of the boy. The man charges at him while the other tries to justify himself, saying it was because of a movie he chose. At the end of the day, they prepare to return with Eiichi's family and have a train to catch. Takuya calls his friend, asking if she wasn't going to change clothes, but she says no, as she would be going by car, and invites him to sit as well. Then she apologizes because she would be traveling. With a small smile, she asks if the boy was happy to have the other girl all to himself, and he says he wasn't thinking about that because he loved having fun with both of them. Smiling, she says she hopes to have fun with him after she comes back, and the other says she could promise that. They both look at each other in silence in front of the beach. The gazes start making them nervous. Seo looks away first, wondering what he could do in that situation, then decides to call his friend's name. When, instead of her, he sees her brother looking at him with a smile. He starts shaking the boy, talking about where his hands should be, while thinking about how fast his heart was beating and how red his face was. Thus, they said goodbye to Eiichi's family, and the three took the train home. Seo says that was exhausting, and Amain comments that she was so tired she wanted to sleep. Amamiya says she could sleep, that he would wake her when they arrived, but the other says she was also sleepy. However, the little one claims she had plenty of energy. After a while, she ends up falling asleep. The boy says she was an elemental girl, and the other apologizes for her sister sleeping on his lap. A few minutes later, the train stops, and when the woman gets off, she looks at them saying their daughter was lovely. The girl says she's her sister, but she couldn't be heard. She looks ahead pensively. Turning to the boy, she smiles, telling him what the woman said about them being a couple, but she is surprised by what she sees. Looking to the side, she decides to rest too, and so the three sleep leaning on each other. Sometime later, Seo wakes up startled, apologizing and asking what the other said. Nervous, she says it was nothing, but to change the subject, she mentions Comic It. On August 14, the teenagers were talking tiredly about how it was their first time, but that they should take the initiative. Today, Seo and Main are together. Watching the first day of Comic It, they were both feeling hot. They start complaining about the crowd and how hard it was to breathe there. The boy says it was liberating to be among the fans and to exist there. That doubled for the girl, who was a closet otaku, and she nervously starts saying it wasn't like that and that she wasn't interested in all of it. As they head to the event, he says he wanted to see her reaction, and she tells him not to make it a bigger deal than it is. Arriving at the venue, Amain comes across a room full of Kiraman stands. Excited, she says it was amazing because she didn't know so many people loved that anime. Changing her tone, she comments about a book she had wanted for a long time and was finally going to get. While picking up the book, the boy thinks that her change in behavior was what surprised him the most. The girl had reached her limit and became a complete otaku. But it was his second Comic Hit, and he wouldn't let the girl outshine him in enthusiasm. He went to the anime developer's booth to compliment them nervously and picked up one of the books to look at since they had published a new one. However, the woman asks him to wait. When he opens one of the pages, he notices something strange until the woman says that one was an adult version. Screaming and putting the book back on the counter, he starts apologizing, but she says it wasn't necessary. The woman says they should start labeling, and her companion comments that they already had, but it was hard to identify. They start talking about the change when Amain arrives. She asks if she can see the display copies, leaving them delighted. After handing them over, they begin wondering if they should ask if she's an adult, but it seemed like she was. While they talk about how she couldn't possibly be an otaku, the girl thinks that the book her friend was looking at was beautiful. However, she gets startled when she turns the page. Throwing the book back, she screams that she's underage and apologizes. Startled, they apologize too. Both come to the conclusion that they should check people's ages and begin commenting on how it didn't make sense for her to be on a date with the boy. Excited, Seo says they should go to the cosplay area, but the girl points him in another direction. It was an Earth character cosplay. The teenagers, with their eyes shining, ask for a photo. He thinks they remind him of his former otaku self. Amain asks if it's time to go home, and the boy replies that they would after buying some products, and she begins organizing her bag. A group approaches, asking if they could take a picture of the girl. They thought she was a cosplayer because of her beauty, and the boy thought it was a reasonable mistake, and that she could handle it easily. However, the girl starts getting nervous and doesn't know what to say, leaving him surprised. He decides to grab the girl's hand and run away, shouting that she wasn't a cosplayer and apologizing, dragging her along. Both run through the corridors. After a while, they stop, and the boy apologizes for holding her hand, saying he wanted to protect her. But with a smile, she says it's okay and that he saved her. They then decide to go home since they got everything they needed, and she thinks that somehow she managed to get even more. At his house, Seo thinks about how August's vacation was ending when his phone starts buzzing. It's messages from the girls talking about fireworks. Quickly, he types that he's going. Then he starts wondering how they would be dressed for a fireworks festival. He's already seen them in beachwear, but he wouldn't be lucky enough to see them in yukata. On the day of the festival, both are wearing traditional clothing. In shock, he thinks he's incredibly lucky. The place is crowded, and Aijiki offers her hand, saying it might look romantic, and he agrees that they could actually look like lovers. The other girl makes a sound, startling him. Noticing that, the girl looks shocked, asking if they were lovers, but they start explaining that they weren't and recount the incident. The other girl says that even so, they held hands. So she grabs her friend's hands and joins them. Shortly after, she takes the boy's other hand and saying they should walk that way. He gets nervous about holding the other girl's hand, and she says it wouldn't be awkward as long as she wasn't the only one holding it. However, they can't walk since each person wants to go in a different direction. So they prioritize comfort over romance and decide to walk normally. They drink and play together during the festival. Amain ends up meeting an old friend. Turning to Ijiki, she says she'll be back soon. Then the girl tells her friend that it's just the two of them now, and he thinks that hearing it like that, he can't help but feel nervous. The fireworks begin, leaving them in awe. Takuya starts remembering everything that happened over the past few days. His friend looks at him, saying she wanted to record the moment, and notices he's crying. He apologizes, saying he thought about the summer and how much he liked it. Smiling, she asks why, since they would still see each other. Becoming serious, she says they made a promise, so they would have lots of fun. The cultural festival was coming, and then the winter one, so they had plenty to do together. Smiling, she says she's looking forward to it. A light show forms in the sky. While looking at the sky, Ijiki thinks she's feeling something she can't hold back. As the fireworks explode in the sky, she has a revelation and begins calling her friend. Looking at her friend, she says she likes him. He gets nervous, not understanding. They stare at each other. Takuya gets nervous, not knowing what to say, while the girl starts rethinking what she said. He starts wondering if it's liking him as a person to spend time with or something else. Then he questions her. She repeats her words with her back to him. However, she turns around again, saying it's as a friend. She asks if he thought it was love, but he flustered, says he misunderstood. The girl starts saying it's a friendly affection, but gets nervous again. Siu said he also liked her as a friend, but didn't want to seem creepy. She said he wasn't and thanked him, just as a man arrived asking what they were doing. Startled, she asked about the confession, but they both said it was just about being friends. The boy commented that he was happy to have someone say they liked him. The girl started remembering her friend's words and pulled her friend back, asking if it was really just liking as a friend, and the other answered yes. The sound of exploding fireworks carried the confessions of love from whales to the sky. The summer night and beyond, all the girls continued to argue about what had happened. At the usual arcade, Kakeru was waiting. He was waiting for Amamiya because, since they went to the beach, he hadn't stopped thinking about her. Since he had lost, he wanted to crush her in the games to show her his skills. She arrived, greeting him and saying it had been a while, but Hibiki appeared right behind her. They started arguing about why they were there. Sayu commented that they were there because of her and began to explain. Both Kakeru and Hibiki wanted to go out with her, but without realizing it, they had spoken to the girl at the same time, making her think it was about the same thing and scheduling them together. After the explanation, the brothers started arguing about how their plans were the same, with one accusing the other of not saying anything. They both decided to settle it with a game of darts, and the loser would go home. When the girl asked if she would also go, one of them started badmouthing the other. Feeling down, she commented that she wanted to spend time with both of them together, leaving them confused. They then decided to call a truce, but were puzzled about why she wanted to spend time with the two of them together. There were only a few days left of summer vacation. Amain was waiting for someone outside a banquet hall. Takuya showed up, surprising and making her happy. She apologized for calling him on such short notice, but he said it wasn't a problem. The boy asked how he could help, and she said her mother needed a model for photos and a boy. He said he wasn't a model, but the girl commented it was a surprise. Nervous, he began saying it was impossible for him to model. She explained that the photos were just of his hands, but he was the only friend she could call to help. Sito thought it was unfair, but if it was just that, he would agree when his name was called. Tamaki appeared, thanking him for coming and bowing. The boy said it was an honor to work for her, while thinking about how beautiful she was. Hugging her daughter happily, she said it was time to put makeup on her, but the girl scolded her, telling her not to do that in front of people. The boy was surprised at how similar they were. The mother started talking about how calm her daughter had become now that the boy was there, but she interrupted her. Seeing this, he understood why she and Ijiki got along so well. While the girl was getting her makeup done, the boy was taken to the dressing room to try on clothes. While putting on makeup, the woman said Siu was adorable and mentioned that she and her husband had been together since high school. Then she got closer to the girl. She hinted at what she and the boy could do, startling her with the conversation. The girl said she wasn't interested in romance. The woman said in that case it was fine, as she would feel bad if her daughter wore a wedding dress before getting married. She kept hinting, but the daughter told her that Takuya liked Karaman more than her. But the mother said her makeup would work magic. Looking around the hall at the people, she began to think she should have known. The boy started thinking he was completely out of place and why he was dressed so elegantly when only his hands would be shown. At that moment, his name was called. A man stood in front of him in an evening gown, leaving him mesmerized. They looked at each other, and the girl asked if he wanted to say something, but all he could do was stammer an apology. With the camera ready, the photographer said they would start with some pictures to get used to the camera. The girl held the boy's hand to take a picture while smiling, but his body was too stiff. Nervous, he said he had never taken photos before. The woman said she understood and called everyone over to see something beautiful. The boy thought she was amazing and her natural expressions were part of her job. She pulled out a photo of Ki when she was 3, sleeping, and showed it to everyone, leaving her nervous and angry. He turned his face, shaking, and the girl scolded him for laughing as her mother now showed them a photo of the girl at her 7th birthday. Mysteriously, he said the photos had good energy and asked if they were related to her motor skills. Seeing the two young people, she asks if they relaxed. She says that photos capture the atmosphere of the moment, so they should have fun. Siu understands what she meant, but her daughter comments that her mother just wanted to show off the pictures. Before, the girl had a serious face, but now she was showing pleasant expressions, which made her very happy. Without realizing it immediately, the photos are finished and the woman praises them, saying they did very well. Taking the album, she says there were more pictures of her daughter. When the girl says no, the boy asks if there's another album, making her even more irritated. At that moment, the boys arrive home exhausted and their sister welcomes them. She asks why they were together since they had left separately and comments that they could go out with girls sometimes. Then they say they already did. With sparkling eyes, the girl asks for more details about the story, but they're too tired. Kotoko begins teasing them about having gone on a date. When they scold her, she asks which one of them went out with Sayu. At that exact moment, the two look at each other, saying not to involve her in this. Then smiling, she starts asking which of the two it was. Without expression, both say it was them, leaving her confused. When she asks why, they begin arguing again about having gone out without telling the other, piquing their sister's interest, who asks if they had fun. Smiling, she thinks that a three-person date is rare and that it was similar to her friend. At the same time, Sayu's sister asks her how the outing with the brothers went. She says it wasn't exactly a date. A date is a romantic outing, and it's usually just two people. The older one says she understands, but everyone has different parameters. Then she asks if they didn't think it was a date. The other replies that even if that were the case, it's too early for love since they are still in elementary school. Ejiki, Amain, and Siu have a group of their own. Kai talks about her sister's outing, surprising the boy. Then he asks which of the brothers it was with. Kotoko says it was with both of them, leaving the boy deep in thought about how that story felt familiar. The girls start explaining what happened to their friend. She says her brothers think fondly of the girl, and Siu comments that they are still elementary school students. She adds that they still came back talking about the girl, even if they were complaining. All three agree that if someone invites another person out, it's because they like them. However, they start remembering that they also invited their friend out alone. Then they backtrack, saying it doesn't necessarily mean that, and that the secret word of the year was probably. One day before summer vacation, the boy finds himself thinking about the plans he wrote for the break with his friends. He puts her notebooks in the center of the table, saying she won't forget them and that, to avoid procrastination, she'll start the next day. Kotoko creates a schedule to plan what she will do each day. In the middle of August, Takuya has a burst of creativity and starts drawing, only stopping when he feels renewed. Amain reads her manga, saying how incredible it is, her back to the notebooks on the table. Aijiki eats watermelon with her siblings at their grandparents' house. At the end of August, the boy panics about the amount of tasks and reports he still has to finish. The girl calls her friend, asking about the assignments, but she's busy. She feeds her siblings while thinking about how her friends are too busy with their tasks and wishes them good luck. On the last day, Ki cries while doing her assignments because she won't get cake until she finishes. Kotoko meets up with a friend and says she'll finish her tasks that day as she's already done all the others. They all meet on the first day of school, exhausted from finishing everything, while the girl enthusiastically congratulates them. Summer vacation is over and the second semester begins. The girl tells her friend she'll borrow his pencil since she forgot hers. Lending her the pencil, he says it's an abuse of power, but she comments it'll be the last time she borrows something from him, leaving him confused. After that day, they change seats, and the boy remembers because after the break, all he can think about are the upcoming tests. The teacher arrives, saying for everyone to draw lots for their seats and not move until everyone has drawn. The girl gets the seat by the window, and the boy gets the one in the middle of the room. She says she'll miss him and wishes him well in his new seat. All the students start changing seats while he wonders where his other friend will be seated. If it weren't for Ajiki, they wouldn't be friends. He should have thanked her before leaving his seat. He starts organizing his desk in his new spot when he notices someone standing in front of him. Amain turns around in surprise. Takuya is amazed by his luck, and the girl says he's now behind her. The other girl appears, saying she's by herself. Looking at his new seatmate, the boy notices that she seems satisfied with the situation. Everyone starts talking about the new semester ahead, while Ki seems distant, but she says it's nothing. Seeing the two talking, their classmates ask, surprised, if they are friends. They ask how he can talk to her without feeling intimidated, as she seems a bit scary and rarely speaks so openly with a boy. The boy says they just started talking. The others ask if the girl is also an otaku. They say it's impossible for such a beautiful girl to be one. He starts laughing but notices a threatening glare in his direction. They conveyed an intense desire for him to deny everything. To divert the topic, he says her sister likes the same anime as him and that the girl shows some interest, but he doesn't need to continue as they're no longer listening. In front of him, the girl struggles with studying. Turning to her friend, she asks what the material means, as she doesn't understand it. Irritated, she asks if he doesn't pity her since classical Japanese makes her fall asleep. He points out that she sleeps in every class except modern Japanese, surprising the others. Kotoko Aijiki is popular in the class. Her friend asks to speak with her in private. Stepping out, she sees her with a boy and asks if they're together. She says yes and thanks her for her help. The boy asks if she received a confession, and she replies that she didn't feel anything for the guy, so she rejected him. She says he was the confession devil. He wasn't a bad guy, but confessed to every girl he felt interested in. As they say goodbye, the boy wishes her to date someone good, and his girlfriend says they'll go out together when it happens. Left alone, she starts thinking about her confession. At her desk, she thinks that nothing has changed, so they can talk normally, but she gets startled when the boy calls her attention. Still startled, she starts asking what's going on and gets nervous. The boy says he's struggling with a part of math. Seeing her nervous, he asks if she's okay, and she says she is. Then they start studying happily. The boy says he understands now and thanks her for the explanation. She says she should have stayed by his side. Then she calls him the confession devil, startling him. At her desk, she sees her classmate sleeping again. After the topic changes, visits to Kotoko become frequent. He startles her again by asking her to teach him English. He didn't want to bother her, so he decided to look for her when she was alone, as he felt lonely away from her. But it seemed like flirting, so he quickly shifted the topic to their studies. During a moment in the day, the girl thinks she wants to tease her friend, to unsettle him as before, to make his heart race. After some time, she notices his English book is closed on his desk. As the students return to their seats, she decides to thank him for his help. The teacher asks them to open to a specific page, and Siem notices a note in his book. Reading it, his heart skips a beat. Quickly, he looks at his friend, who notices and glances at him out of the corner of her eye. She makes a heart shape with her fingers at him, leaving him embarrassed. Seeing his reaction, the girl feels satisfied that she achieved what she wanted. In the book, it said, "I love you," with the word love crossed out and replaced with like. Since the seating arrangement changed, wherever Seo leaves, Ajiki takes his seat. She notices the otaku entering and asks if he'd like to sit. Even though he says no, she says she feels bad leaving him standing. In a joking tone, she says he could sit on her lap, leaving him very embarrassed. She continues joking, saying he shouldn't take it seriously. Ajiki asks if they all understand that the second biggest event of the term is approaching. Takuya asks what else there could be after the tests, and Amain says she doesn't want anything else, while Ajiki simply says it's a fun event that starts with S and ends with L. The otaku immediately guesses it's the Kiraman Star Festival, and Amain is excited, thinking that's it, but the classmate replies it's the school festival. The classmate explains that on the first day, each class performs, and on the second day, they can participate in clubs or committees. Amain says she won't be busy, and Ajiki suggests she could walk around and check out the other performances. She then gets up from her seat and tells the otaku to sit in it. He cannot help but notice that the chair is warm. Amain asks why the boy's face is red, and he simply replies that he is ashamed of himself. He cannot erase from his conscience what he witnessed, and when he gets up, he cannot help but feel weak for a few seconds. When Ajiki takes his seat, the place turns into a meeting spot for girls. He notices that it happens again and decides to leave through the door he entered. Mayu asks if they know the rumors about the events after the parties, and Ajiki asks if it is about the fireworks. The colleague reveals that there is a superstition that when a boy and a girl hold hands during the fireworks, they find happiness together. Ajiki responds that superstitions is a term used for negative rumors. Amain says the party will indeed attract several couples who will casually hold hands, and that she does not intend to hold hands with anyone. Her friend says you never know, as someone could force her to hold hands, and the girl asks if that would count too. She asks if it is mandatory to go to the party. The boy says no, but he thought everyone would go. The colleague comments that it is just a rumor, but that adds to the youthful festival. Both girls imagine the boy reaching out his hand to them. Despite everything, they are at the age where they dream about such things. The teacher says it is the day to decide what they will do at the festival. First of all, they would make a position. Happily, he says they will do everything successfully. The girl comments that such intensity scares her. Seo knew why everyone was so excited, but he could not tell the girls. Success there meant making the two wear cosplay. With the leaders of Class 1A, all expectations were on their class. They could not afford to waste beauty on a mediocre position. It was time to hear opinions, and anyone with good cosplay ideas should raise their hand. Then everyone starts dictating their ideas. Maid outfit, police officer, nurse, and the girls dressed as boys. Everyone wants the girls' opinions on the costumes. Ajiki says he would try them all, but does not think of one. Amain, on the other hand, says she would not wear anything they suggested. The students get upset with the girl, as they were trying very hard. The girl catches her friend's attention and asks to dress up as maids together, earning cheers with her attitude. She says a maid cafe sounds good, but she would be backstage, so she would not wear the outfit. Then she says the other students would speak if Amain stayed backstage. To convince her, she whispers to her friend that the otaku also wanted her to wear the costume. Even so, the girl says she would not wear it. The other says the boy was always happier seeing them in swimsuits and yukata. Then she asks why without them he did not even sweat traditional outfits. After the comment, the girl has an idea and shares it with her friend. He says she would wear it, but for the whole class, the idea was to make a cosplay cafe where everyone, both in front and behind, would have to cosplay. The teacher and students love the idea and accept it. Seo thinks it was a good negotiation, but that he realizes what's happening. The girls turn to him smiling and ask if it's all right. Before he can respond, the idea is accepted, as there was no way to say no to something like that. During the 2 weeks of the festival's programming period, the last classes of each day were replaced with preparation. The girls start looking at what kind of maid outfit they would wear. They look at Miss Luna's cosplay and consider using it, leaving Kai embarrassed. Looking at the costume and how they could make it, they think it was too flashy for a school outfit. As they thought Miss Luna's costume would bring repercussions, they started considering Mr. Terra because he wore a suit and it would not be difficult. A maid asks if they should have something for the head, and the other asks who would wear it. She replies that it would be her. Grabbing her by the shoulders, desperate, she says she could say that because she has a pretty face, leaving her upset when she hears a conversation in the background. One of the boys asks Seo what he is doing with a cable, and he replies that he is making a globe. Immediately, the girl associates it with a glow she wanted to put on her head to complete her costume. Noticing they were thinking the same, she approaches him and punches his shoulder, leaving him intrigued. Kotoko asks what the panels on the floor are for, and her friend says they are dividers. The other replies that they intended to divide the areas. She replies that they are smart, leaving the boy embarrassed. Misaki appears to hit him, telling him not to drool over the girl. They continue fighting while the boy denies the insinuations, and the girl asks why they are fighting if they love each other so much. Her friends reply that it's jealousy and joke that might be too soon for her. She tells them to shut up. She asks the girl if there's anyone she's interested in, and the girl says no but looks at the boy. Ejiki thinks that the interest he has is like a father's to encourage her side. The girl says she needs scissors. The others say they don't have any, but Seo offers his, leaving his friend shocked that he offered help on his own. Approaching him, the girl thanks him and compliments his project. The boy says it's nothing special and thanks her, embarrassed. Seeing the scene, his friend is astonished. Coming close to him, she also punches his shoulder, leaving him wondering if that was becoming a trend. The teacher arrives with the prices for the cosplays for the team leaders to review. Thus, the conversation about the outfits and what they will sell in the cafe continues. When they see the prices of the items, they are shocked because they are expensive, but the teacher explains that they took cafe tariffs into account. It might seem expensive for a high school festival, but they have permission as part of their social studies, and the money could change the environment and help with the outfits. The girl says she has no experience with part-time jobs, and another says she prefers to lower the prices. Another says they are the attraction and that with low prices, the place would be packed. He says that to see them, people would come multiple times. Ki tries to argue, but the man gets annoyed, saying that to see them in cosplay, even 1 million wouldn't be enough. Both look at each other, remembering their swimsuits for the festival. One of them asks if the price would go up with swimsuits, and the two say yes. The other asks about yukatas. They then agree on 1 billion to see them in swimsuits and yukatas. After a while, they go to charge their friend, who comments that it's extortion. There are 5 days left until the school festival. Seo has been so busy with the preparations that he hasn't had time to work on his cosplay. Kotoko notices the boy looking down. She approaches him, asking if he's going to finish his costume at home because she's working on hers too. Smiling, she asks if he wants to work on it together, and he enthusiastically replies yes. During the preparations, the boy feels lonely because he isn't with the girls. They start thinking about where they could go. Karaoke would make them sing, the room wouldn't work, but the girl has a secret plan. It's her older brother's apartment. Her friend wonders if it's okay to interrupt him like that. She often goes there to sleep and change the scenery, and since the boy knows the brother, it should be fine. Embarrassed, he starts to enter when he realizes the situation. He's alone in a family apartment with a girl. Nervous, he thinks it's impossible for anything to happen and that he's overthinking. He finds comfort in Genichiro's imposing presence. In an apartment room, the teenagers are alone together. They begin working on the project when she starts playing music. He thinks it's risky. Smiling, she asks if the boy is nervous about being alone with her and smiling awkwardly. He says he's calm. She comments that she's happy because they were separated during the festival preparations and didn't have a chance to talk. She says the boys seem to be having fun. He replies that preparing with everyone made him finally feel part of the class, and he was moved. But he still felt lonely, so he was happy to be with her. She motions as if to punch his arm again, irritating her friend. Content, the girl says she's happy too. The boy gets embarrassed and is startled by Amane's arrival, apologizing for being late. Takuya thinks it's good they're no longer alone. The girls sit and start commenting on how well the work is going. Hearing the compliments, he gets nervous but thinks there's no time to relax. The three of them make progress on their work. The cosplays are finished, leaving the girls astonished. Dressed in the outfits, the boy starts imitating the character because the truth disappears when he's dressed. Excited, Ki says she wants to try it too. He hands her the character's headpiece, but as she approaches, she says she wants the Nico Part 2, leaving the boy flustered and her friend teasing her. A while later, he comes out of the bathroom and tells the girl to start getting dressed. He begins to think that the two of them had indecent thoughts. Looking at the finished headpiece, he thinks it feels tight. Then he wonders if it would touch the mouth of whoever wears it. The outfit smelled like the boy, as if he were hugging her. Outside, the others were talking while they waited for her. Leaving the bathroom, she says it didn't matter. She asks the boy if something didn't please him. He says he was afraid of ruining it and suggests they do it together. His scent was still on her. Noticing that the girl was sniffing herself, he asks if she didn't like the smell. Startled, she says that wasn't it. The three of them continue working together to finish their project. While eating, they say they are making progress. However, they wish they had more time. Realizing this, Ijiki looks out the window. It was very dark. They lament as they were almost done. The boy says he'd like to thank the boy before leaving, and the other girl comments that they're free the next day. She then suggests a sleepover, delighting them. She says they have everything there to use and that the boy could sleep with her brother. Nervously, he yells that it's inappropriate. He comments that it's true and that it's a man's house. The girl tries to argue but has an emotional expression on her face. Hugging her friend, Kotoko tries to convince her, saying it would be fun. She asks her friend if it's okay and still nervous. He is left speechless. The girl says they have work to do and eventually decide. Ijiki's brother arrives home and they go to ask him if they can stay there. His sister begs him. He says that normally he would say no because they are still students and should have gone home before it got dark. That's what an adult would normally say. However, he ends up letting them stay and asks the other two to get permission from their parents. Seo thanks the man, who comments about his mother's surprise. The boy says it's the first time he slept away from home and he's always wanted to. He starts talking about his school days, saying that having those experiences when young is very important. Putting his arms around his neck, he says that with him there, nothing would happen, leaving him flustered. Amane's mother gives her permission, and her friend says she'll lend her some clothes. Her older brother asks if they can order pizza, and everyone cheers. Excitedly, the three of them take a photo. Genichiro says he'll be gaming in his room and asks them not to make noise. The girls start talking about having fun, while the boy keeps thinking about their project. The three of them continue working on their project. The pizza arrives. Soon after, they go to a convenience store and then play games together. Afterward, the boy asks about the project and he says they are about to start. Kotoko says she can't find the motivation for it. Then she decides they should take a bath to refresh themselves. Going to her brother's room, she says they are going to take a bath. He comments that he'll take his the next day so they can do whatever they want. She tells the boy to go first, but he says the two of them should go. They look at him, commenting that it's a bit impertinent. Nervously, he says he had no strange intentions. Laughing, the girl says she's joking, but they really want him to go first, leaving him puzzled. He says it would be a bit embarrassing to go in after the girls. He understands what the girl means and starts imagining the girls in the bath. Running to the bathroom, he apologizes and says he'll go first. The two comment that he must have thought something indecent. In the bathroom, he takes a cold shower to cool his head. Leaving the bath, the boy thanks them. Then, Anjichi calls her friend to bathe together. The girl says yes and asks if it wouldn't be cramped, but the other assures her the place is spacious. Then they bid him goodbye and go to the bath. One of them says sleepovers are fun and wants to do it again after the festival, and the other says they could go to her house. Outside, the boy hears them and thinks they're having fun. Even so, Seo is a healthy high school boy, but he starts wondering what happens between two girls alone in the bath. At that moment, he starts imagining them complimenting each other passionately. Nervous about his own thoughts, the boy goes back to his work, while the girls argue about their turn in the shower. The boy focuses on his work to get rid of worldly thoughts when the girls come out. Dressed in comfortable clothes, they feel relaxed. He turns to them. Her friend says they did matching hairstyles, and the other apologizes for taking so long. Noticing the boy is frozen, they call him again, and all he says is that they look good. He thinks it was a different kind of beauty than usual. With different clothes and hairstyles, they looked more natural. The girls notice the boy staring at them too much, and he apologizes. They ask him not to look at them so attentively, saying it was embarrassing to be without makeup. Seo asks if it's okay to wear makeup at school, and Aijiki says it's not explicitly forbidden. The other girl comments that several girls wear it. Smiling, the boy says they are always so beautiful, but were especially stunning that day. Embarrassed, they look away. One of them says the boy was very sincere, leaving him surprised as he didn't think he had said anything strange. Kotoko comments that she's tired and her friend asks if they could sleep. She suggests the boy sleep with her brother. At that moment, the man appears, startling the boy. Nervously, he says he's excited, but Genichiro remarks that he didn't want that either. After everything, the lights go out with the friends sleeping together and the boys in the same room, though separated. It doesn't take long for Aijiki to call out to her friend, saying she's too anxious to sleep, and the other says it feels like they're on a school trip. Approaching her brother's room, she calls out to the boy, asking who his crush is, when the man yells at them to sleep. Then, he also leaves the room. The man asks if they were really going to sleep during a sleepover because in his youth, no one ever slept. His friends used to say it was a waste of time. The girls are delighted to hear that. They agree that whoever falls asleep first will pay for ice cream. They decide to watch a subtitle movie in a dark room to make it harder. The man tells the boy to join them. They just had to be quiet because it was late. While they chat, the boy reflects on how wonderful youth is. The movie marathon to avoid sleeping begins. One of the girls lies down on the mattress, and the other teases her, saying she's going to fall asleep. The girl denies it and then calls out to her friend. She asks who he likes, and startled, the boy asks if they should keep going with this. Kei comments that she also wants to know, leaving him with no way out. The other girl says it will be their secret. He tries to talk about the anime, but they insist it's about their class and ask who he would date. Thinking hard, he starts to consider the girls he talks to, but he realizes he only talks to the 2 girls in front of him. Hearing this, they both cheer. Now it's his turn. He asks the girls who they like. They look at each other and simultaneously say it's him. Then they avert their gaze, leaving him red with embarrassment. Ijiki says it's embarrassing to be part of the game, and the other 2 shift the conversation back to the movie. The first movie ends and the boy asks Ki if she's okay. She responds that she's always been a night owl and stays up late watching Karaman. He says that, as a fellow otaku, he can't allow himself to lose. The other girl asks if he could simply stop calling her an otaku and turns to her friend. She asks her if she's falling asleep. Seeing her looking down, she rubs her eyes and says she's not sleepy. The girl comments that her friend was full of energy just a little while ago, and the boy says not to push herself. Shouting, she asks why they think they'll win. Covering her face with her hands, she declares determinedly that she won't sleep and will take a picture of them when they do. As they watch, the girl keeps changing positions until she finally falls asleep on the mattress. Now the battle is one-on-one. The boy says he's close but won't lose now, and the other girl comments that Amira Taku won't win. After a while, the mood starts to feel romantic. While watching the movie, the boy asks his friend why she hides the fact that she's an otaku. He insists she's not, but that lowers her head. She eventually admits that she didn't have anyone to talk to. When she started watching anime, her classmates would talk about celebrities, so she was afraid of feeling out of place. Even when she talked to people who liked anime, they didn't know Kiraman. By hiding her otaku hobbies, she felt like she lost a lot of her emotions. The time she used to feel happy kept getting shorter. Takuya thinks that someone in such a bright world like hers must have a lot of worries. Looking at her friend, the girl says she's very happy at that moment. Her friend makes her feel good in any version of herself, and it's comfortable being with her. With Otaku, who's also a Kiraman fan, she never thought she'd feel this moved by him. He says he feels the same way because he didn't have friends and barely talked to people. But talking to the girls is truly nice and gives him a little hope. He's been thinking a lot lately, that he's very happy. Time disappears whenever he's there. The girl says she feels the same way and asks to take a photo so they won't lose that moment. With their friends sleeping, the 3 of them take a photo together. In the morning, the man wakes up, wishing the teenagers a good morning and asking who survived until morning. However, seeing all 3 of them asleep was a total defeat. The high school festival began on the 1st. They were the highlight of the schools, and Class 1 organized a cosplay cafe. Seo then prepared a cosplay of Lord Terra from Kiraman and began wondering if he had outdone himself as he headed to the classroom, questioning whether he was standing out too much. Seeing everyone else in costumes, he thought there was nothing to worry about. They were more serious than he expected. The girls were wearing Halloween costumes and the boys had costumes with effects. One of the decorations, a flower, was falling off, and he went to fix it when someone called him. Kotoko, dressed as a maid, greeted him. Seeing her, he thought he was glad they were in the same class and immediately noticed that their menu was a bit expensive. However, looking outside, he saw a line of students, so there was nothing to worry about. The students were excited, and the teacher encouraged them to make the 2 days a success. Thus, the school festival began. Indeed, the cafe became a success. Naturally, the Ijiki effect played an important role, and seeing everyone enjoying themselves in their own way was the reason it was so well received. Some boys appear asking for a main. The teacher explained that she and the other girl couldn't appear at the same time and to check the schedule. They were shocked by the schedules and character rotations, and the staff told them to come back later if they wanted to see both girls. One of the students remarked that their booth was more popular than expected and that it might secure them first place. Steo admitted he didn't know about that. The other explained that after the festival, several awards were announced, with the most notable being the beauty contest. The first-year category would definitely come down to the girls in their class, Kotoko and Ki. He asked the boy to think carefully when voting, while the students around him debated who would win. His dilemma was how to choose between the 2 girls. As the event progressed, they went to clean the empty tables, and his friend looked at him with concern, noticing he had been thinking too much and was exhausted. One of the students invited her to see the fireworks, but she declined, saying she would go with her friends. Another invited her, but she also rejected him. The girl next to her commented on how popular she was. She smiled and mentioned how famous the rumor about holding hands had become. She said everyone might end up making promises to each other, and at that moment, she approached her friend. Close enough to startle him, she asked if she could ask him something. Startled, he almost dropped the cups. She asked if he had planned to watch the fireworks with someone. He asked if people were still doing that, and his friend said she hadn't made any promises. Smiling, she asked why he had been so focused earlier, and he replied that he had been deciding who to vote for and assured her he would support her. A bit nervous, Kotoko thought she was happy about that but still felt conflicted. Showing her his ballot, Sue explained that he couldn't choose between them, so he wrote down both names. Seeing the paper, slightly emotional, she said his vote was invalid, but to him, it didn't matter. She felt a bit disappointed but also relieved. After their break, shifts followed the schedule. The customers were different from before. Sue was free, so he took the 8 AM shift. It was time for the other girl to enter. A main appeared, enchanting everyone with the beauty of her cosplay. She was dressed as Vampire Emperor, a character from Kiraman. The boy wasn't surprised. She had shown great interest in his cosplay, but simply stopped talking about it when she found that one. However, the design of the outfit was different, making him wonder if there had been a mistake. But there was also the possibility it was just a generic vampire costume. Kate used the same lines as her character, confirming to him that it was indeed the vampire from Kiraman. Everyone in the room began complimenting her, even without understanding, and as always, her embarrassment disappeared in cosplay. Seeing so many people asking for photos with her, he had a thought about taking a photo with her. However, with so many people there, it was difficult for an introvert. At that moment, his friend called him over to take a photo together. Since they knew each other first, she asked if he didn't want a photo with her, leaving him nervous. As she set up the camera, she said it wasn't just photos. It was Vampire Lord and Lord Terra together, and the boy referenced the scene where that happened. The photo was taken with both of them striking their poses, and Kotoko took the pictures, remarking that it was rare. She takes a photo with a boy on her own. Amain says she thought the cosplay was good. The other girl comments on the Terra cosplay and asks if they weren't standing too close, leaving the girl nervous, trying to deny it. After all, it was just a Kiraman photo, nothing special. With that, she convinced herself. On the first day of the school festival, the students' families visited them. Seo begins to wonder if Ejichi's and Seiyu's siblings would come, as it would feel like they were playing together again. At that moment, one of the kids starts staring at him and he asks if she's lost. Pointing at him, she calls out his character's name. Noticing that the little girl liked the same anime as him, they start talking about it. It was the first time he met a child who liked Kiraman. He never thought he'd hear that directly from someone and was glad he had done that cosplay. Kai begins circling around them, probably hoping the girl would notice her too. Then, approaching the little girl, she asks if she could guess who the other Kiraman character among them was. The child starts looking around when the vampire tries to get her attention. However, the girl doesn't recognize her, leaving her devastated. At the end of the festival, the little girl says goodbye to the boy while her friend is still upset. He says it couldn't be helped since her character wasn't popular with kids. But the other girl, irritated, says she didn't care, but her cosplay wasn't perfect. During his break to change costumes, Seo was bored when his friends sent him a message. Outside the school, both of them were waiting for him. Holding up a bag, Kotoko pleads with him to wear what's inside. The boy says he'd like to do what they want and asks what's in the bag. They look at each other but don't respond, leaving him with a bad feeling. He turns around to leave but is pulled back. The two of them ask again for him to wear it. Now irritated, they tell him he has seen enough of their cosplays, so it's time for him to wear one too. There was a maid cosplay, and after putting it on, embarrassed, he asks the girls if they're satisfied. One of them says he looks surprisingly cute, and the other says they would take him everywhere. The boy yells that they won't. On the first afternoon of the school festival, Amain debuts her cosplay. It was a 2000 school style, receiving compliments from all the students. Little Sayu was there and greeted Seo. She says she came to tease her sister, but then admits she came to see her. She says she was expecting something more extravagant, like a fancy dress or a nurse's outfit, so she's a bit disappointed. Surprised by her sister's popularity, she decides to call her. However, she makes the mistake of calling her sister out loud. The other girl asks her if she looked more elegant than usual, and she replies that she looks fine. Before she can react, she's surrounded by students praising her for being Key's sister. She says she came to look, not to be looked at, and Seo thinks she's in trouble. Her sister comments that it's funny, but nerve-wracking. The other boy asks if they could help. After being rescued, she faces a barrage of questions. They begin talking about how much they resemble each other when the little girl notices something and asks her sister if she's okay. Nervously, she whispers to her, asking if she won't say anything strange. The other girl, in a threatening tone, includes high school in the warning. The students comment that the other girl is like an idol among them, great at sports too. Soon, many questions about her home life follow. Sayu starts to reflect on how her sister is but looks up at her, noticing her forced smile. Then she begins describing her sister at home, making Seo anxious to hear the answer. The little girl says her sister is mature and intelligent, and that she wants to be a wonderful person like her. The students become ecstatic at the response, both the girls and the boys. The older sister hugs her, and Seo thinks she's quite the actress. A little later, the little girl says she's tired and wants to rest before heading home. Her sister shows her to the waiting room and asks Seo if he could stay with her. Hearing that he wanted to talk to the little girl, she jokingly asks if he plans to flirt with her too, leaving him shocked. After some time, Key goes to find her sister to tell her she can't go home yet, but will accompany her to the exit. But the little girl is too entertained with Seo to listen. Amain watches them as the little girl thanks Seo for keeping her company. He asks if he could accompany her to the exit, but she says she needs to ask her sister. Sayu talks about the fireworks and asks if he didn't want to go with Key, who suddenly appears like a flash to interrupt them. She drags her sister away, leaving him puzzled by the scene. Once outside the school, Key asks where she had heard that, and Sayu says she overheard it during her interrogation. Feeling a bit flustered, Key says she had no intention of taking it further. Looking at her little sister, she asks why she's staring at her like that. Her sister tells her to invite her friend. Key says no. Sayu comments that Key is surprisingly shy. After saying goodbye, Kai runs into Aijichi's brothers. Seeing her, the boys excitedly approach. asking about the younger sibling, but Ki explains that she had already left. Ki apologizes for not being able to see them. The boys immediately change the subject and leave. Looking at her, they ask why she looks like that. Ki tells them that their sister would have liked to see them, making them even more excited. It was the grand finale of the cosplay cafe. Ajiki's cosplay earned her compliments from the students. Her brothers call out to her, but she doesn't notice right away. When she does, she's startled, asking why they're there. While she talks to them, other students overhear the conversation and swarm them, just as they had done with Sayu. Kakeru and Hibiki find themselves surrounded by older students bombarding them with questions. Among the questions, one asks if the boys like anyone, which irritates them. Kotoko comments that she didn't want them there because of things like this, and her friend asks her to help the boys and put an end to it. Stepping into the crowd, the girl asks everyone to stop and directs questions to her instead, guiding the boys closer to Amain. Amain wonders what to do as she needs to change, so she calls her friend to stay with the boys and he readily agrees. Looking at them, he realizes how much the crowd had bothered them. He feels annoyed because they're usually so energetic, but now they seem lifeless. Ki suggests having a sleepover at Ajuchi's house so the boys can join. They try to protest but fall silent when they hear their sister will be there too. Excitedly, they start talking about playing games as if they come back to life. Seo thinks that, as expected, Ki won their hearts with that brilliant plan. She invites Seo as well and says the other girl had probably already planned it. Her brothers mention that she always talked about the sleepover. The cafe was closing, so the cosplayers needed to prepare for their shift's end, and there would be a presentation in the gymnasium. Seo calls Kotoko and asks if he can take the boys to the school's entrance, and she says yes. But first, she wants to take a photo since she couldn't end the day without one. Still a bit flustered, the photo is taken. Kotoko thanks him for taking care of her brothers, and Seo says it was no problem. Then he realizes that the photo they took feels like deja vu. Scrolling through his phone, he finds a similar photo. Excited, Kotoko comments on how much they talked that day. Takuvia remarks that the photo was a treasure for him. It marked the moment he started talking with his friends, making it feel like the beginning for him. Relaxed, he jokes that it might not mean much to her, but she just calls his name. Embarrassed, she begins talking about the fireworks after the festival, but loses her nerve and comments that it seemed fun. He agrees. In classroom A1, the room is empty as he goes there while something happens in the gymnasium. Looking out the window, he reflects on how fun the first day of the festival was. He feels more comfortable with the class and notes how long it had been since he'd seen the kids. Beside him, the girls appear, welcoming him and thanking him for saying goodbye. He asks what they're doing there. They say they were waiting for him. They wouldn't have fun leaving him with her brothers. Then they ask what he wants to do. Flustered, he admits he's not good at these kinds of events, and Ki replies that she isn't either. The other girl then suggests having a little party with just the three of them. His friends are excited about the idea. Ajiki, pushing him along, says they have the perfect empty room for it. He asks if no one's expecting them in the gymnasium. She replies that she just wants to be with them there and it's fine. Her friend, though shy, tells him he shouldn't be shy either. Then they ask the boy, who responds that he's fine with it too. So they head to the location, chatting about the sleepover they had. In the gymnasium, the presentation is happening with everyone from the school there. All the classrooms are closed and the noise can be heard from outside the building. In the empty room, the three of them enjoy themselves while eating. They sat on the floor, sharing food and drinks amidst the boxes. Even though it wasn't a party with live performances and was just a dimly lit resting room for the three of them, it was the best place. Thus, the first day of the school festival came to an end. On the second day of the school festival, after classes were over, the club committee held a performance. When it ended, Amain and Ajiki were free to enjoy the festival. The two decided to have fun with the games. Walking down the hallway, Amain excitedly commented that this was how a school festival should feel. Her friend asked if there seemed to be more couples than usual at school, and she agreed, saying it must be the magic of the festival. Ajiki remarked that she didn't want to date someone in that way. Her type was someone sincere, but that wasn't all. Her ideal type should know how to say thank you and please when they made a mistake, have pleasant manners, be kind to children, and passionate about what they love. While listing these qualities, Seo's image came to her mind, making her smile. Her friend asked if she was thinking of someone. She denied it. To change the subject, she mentioned some food from a restaurant, leaving her friend confused. As the girls were leaving, they were stopped by two boys. The archery club was hosting a target shooting game, but Ki didn't find anything that interested her. However, she saw a toy on the shelf that caught her attention and decided to participate. Her friend began trying to guess which prize she wanted and noticed a nail oil, thinking that was it. Ki asked one of the club members where the items came from, and another said that the students themselves brought things they no longer used. She thought people didn't know the value of those items, so her friend should win it. Her shot was perfect, hitting the toy. She celebrated, but her friend was disappointed. Approaching her friend asked if she wasn't aiming for the nail oil. To cover it up, Ki said she was, and even though she didn't hit it, she was happy to have gotten something. Secretly, she thought no one knew how valuable the toy was. Kotoko was taking pictures with her classmates. Meanwhile, Ajiki turned down a boy who invited her to play games. A member of the band invited her to watch their show and then the fireworks. She thought it was nice how he invited everyone equally. Her friend was busy taking photos with the girls who wouldn't stop complimenting her. Exhausted in the bathroom, Kai remarked that everyone was being too aggressive, and her friend replied that it was invisible. Looking at her friend, Kay asked what she would do about the fireworks, and her friend commented that everyone could hold hands and be happy. One of them mentioned that if it were with Seo, it would be fine, and the other agreed but said only if he wanted to. A moment later, they both changed their minds. Kay asked what they would do about the fireworks, and her friend mentioned it was tiring to reject people, so she had an idea. She proposed they go just the two of them, leaving the others surprised. Taking her hands, she said it would be like that. Their friend walked into the bathroom, saw the scene, and left her, joking that she didn't see anything, but there was nothing else to do but silence her about what she saw. At that moment, Seo was in the library. Since he hadn't promised anyone he'd go to the festival and going alone felt awkward, he sought refuge there. Suddenly, he began overhearing rumors about the festival and the fireworks. He heard that the winners of the beauty contest always ended up together. They said it was normal since they had looks everyone accepted. Then they started talking about his friends. Even though he was alone, the conversation about that topic kept him company. He began thinking about the boys who would go on stage with their universally accepted looks. Looking at his phone, he scrolled through his photos with the girls, thinking they would be with boys more suited for them, with boys more appropriate. At that moment, he felt a pang in his chest, but thought he shouldn't feel that way. He should be happy for them. But he still felt frustrated, calming himself down only by focusing on Lord Terra's head. The school festival was reaching its climax, and at that moment, the post-festival events began. Several performances took place, entertaining the students. The boy felt awkward seeing so many colors. He thought most students were forced to participate in the post-festival events and didn't have the courage to leave until Ajichi called out to him. Approaching him, she asked if he had checked his message box, but he hadn't, and his classmates said that she and Amain had something to do. At that moment, she revealed that both of them had been invited to the beauty contest and would be going on stage, so they wanted him to watch them. Seo congratulates them and asks if the rankings have already been decided, but she responds that they haven't, saying they will make a specific signal for him to see and that he should stay and watch. She says goodbye and heads toward the stage, and he notices that they are going to the presentation. The boy thinks he is already overwhelmed by the atmosphere and wonders if he will be able to see her, reflecting that those at the top usually end up staying with each other. A new event takes place where they try to set a record for the loudest scream and ask everyone to shout. Takure tries to preserve his ego by shouting as loud as he can. The boy is breathless from exerting himself. However, Ki suddenly arrives saying she has huge news to share. He asks if she's going to the beauty contest, and she responds that she should, but she's there to show him something. Amain reveals a secret Kiramon keychain she won in an archery club challenge, commenting that the boy who put it as a prize didn't know the item's rarity. Seo, somewhat empathetically, responds that it's amazing, but she notices something is off. She shifts slightly to the side and looking directly at him, asks if something is wrong. Ki comments that being an otaku, he should go crazy over this kind of thing and asks if he's feeling sick. The boy avoids answering, saying he was thinking about something else. Ki, suspicious, asks what could be more important than Kiramon and insists on hearing it from him while cornering him against the wall. The boy starts thinking that he can't talk about his feelings and doesn't want them to participate in the beauty contest. His classmate keeps staring at him, and the otaku says he's in a place that's too bright and that he isn't feeling well because of it. Amain says she understands, and Seo thinks he said the right thing. She mentions that she doesn't like crowded places either, and the boy asks if it's okay to admit that at school since she's an otaku. Although she denies being one, he teases her. Amain leaves the spot where the boy is and wonders what's wrong with him. The announcers decide to reveal the winners. For first-year Class D, Ushio Yuki takes third place, and they announce that first and second place will be revealed together. The announcers reveal that the winners are Aijiki in first place and Amain in second, asking both to come up to the stage. Seo was surprised that his friends were chosen. They go up to the stage, and the announcer reveals that the votes were close. Kotoko won by a small margin. He hands the microphone to Amain, asking her to say a few words, but she refuses. Then he hands it to Aijiki, who asks if there's any prize. They respond that there isn't. The announcers reveal the winners of the boys' beauty contest, and Seo hears some guys near him commenting that the winners belong to a completely different world. Takuya notices that the male winners are standing close to Amain and Kotoko, and overhears someone saying they look perfect together. At that moment, the boy smiles faintly. From the back of the crowd, he only thinks to himself that he knew it all along. He understands that they live in different worlds, that their paths crossed only at school, and that the two girls should remain in that bright part of the world. While the winners of the competition are on stage with the boys, Seo is lost in thought, believing he is just an otaku who doesn't deserve any of it. Remembering a photo he took with the girls, he reflects on how different he is from them. Filled with remorse, he sheds a tear and turns away, walking in the opposite direction of the crowd. Aijiki notices the distant figure and wonders if it was Takuya leaving. Amain and her friend went on stage for the beauty competition, and Seo, seeing this, decided to lead the scene. The announcer declares that the first-year beauty competition is over. As the second-year girls take the stage, the girl realizes her friend is missing. Meanwhile, the audience cheers loudly for the boys and girls, asking for photos and videos with them. An announcement is made through the school microphone. asking all students to move to the courtyard, as the fireworks will begin at 7 p.m. Various events unfold in the courtyard as students enjoy themselves in groups, and Ijiki notices a line of boys has formed to shake her hand. Despite feeling happy about being invited, none of the messages she sent to Siu were answered, so she decides she must go after him, but Mayu calls her. Kotoko asks if everyone is going to the event after the festival, and the girl replies that they are. Her friend adds that those who didn't care about the fireworks should have left, and suddenly running, the other says she needs to go somewhere, leaving her speaking alone. She responds that maybe she's going to a cafe, leaving her friend in shock. Mayu asks what kind of delinquent would leave to go to a cafe, and Kotoko apologizes, thinking that her friend might be there as she stops and starts signing autographs. In another part of the courtyard, Shine is forming a line of boys to let one of them watch the fireworks with Amain, and when she sees this, she asks what her friend is doing. Kei tells her that even if invited, she's not going to watch the fireworks with anyone, and that she should get rid of them. Shine understands, assuming Kai has other plans. Shine asks her friend if she's planning to watch the fireworks with Ajichi, and embarrassed, she denies it. Shine keeps teasing her, saying that Amain invited the girls so passionately, and her friend, still embarrassed, starts scolding her. Her friend remains calm and says she could help her with whatever she needed, so Amain asks her to get rid of the boys. Ijiki suddenly arrives and pulls her, asking for help in finding Takuya. She explains that she saw him leave during the event announcement, and even though she sent him messages, he hasn't replied, and her friend tells her to calm down. Amain tries to comfort her, saying that maybe he's nearby, in the bathroom or somewhere, but Ijiki says she's looked everywhere and can't find him. Shin hears the mention of the bathroom and looks at her strangely. Annoyed, Ijiki says it's nothing like that. Ki sends her away, and her friend asks if she's busy with something. Sighing, she replies that her friend sometimes just gets in the way and asks what they were talking about. However, neither of the two can answer. Kotoko answers her own question, saying she can't find Siu anywhere, and the other remembers that he wasn't feeling well at the festival. She asks if he might have a problem and went to the infirmary, but Ki replies that their friend would have said something and wouldn't ignore their messages without a reason. It's strange for him to disappear during the announcement. Then she starts wondering what he's thinking to do something like this and calls her friend. She asks her to cover for them because she's going to slip away with Ijiki for a bit, and her friend misunderstands again, while Amain justifies herself, saying it's important. Seeing her serious expression, her friend agrees to take care of things. Ki thanks her and pulls Ijiki along to figure out face-to-face what's going on. Ijiki asks if she has any idea where he might be. Ki says he isn't the type to leave the school and is probably somewhere comfortable, like the waiting room. Takuya, hidden in the waiting room with a depressive tone, thinks he should just stay there until it's all over. After all, he's used to being alone. Sad, he reflects that someone like him shouldn't be with them. The boy pulls out his phone and decides that there's nothing special about him, that he'll just be who he is, just a Kiraman of Taku. He scrolls through his phone looking at some photos and laughs, saying that the pictures bring him back and that he should make copies of them. As he scrolls further through his gallery, the drawings disappear and photos of him with the girls begin to appear, leaving him in shock. At that moment, he realizes how important they are to him, that they're even on the same level as Kiraman, and he says he can't while starting to cry. Through his tears, he says he can't simply pretend that none of this happened. Wiping his tears, he stands up, thinking how silly he's been and that he should tell them he wants to be with them, that Taku should talk about what he loves. He pulls the curtain. When he pulls the curtain, he finds the girls standing in front of him. The three of them are surprised. They ask each other what they're doing there, and the girls explain that they were worried. He apologizes, saying he needed space, and Ki comments that she's relieved. Seo tells the girls that there's something he wants to say to them. He bows before them and reveals that he wants to stay with both of them, leaving them stunned. They ask what he means, and stammering, he says he doesn't know where to start. Kotoko tells him he can talk about whatever he wants and that he should take his time. Amain asks if he's being forced to say this. Seo says it's not like that he started thinking about himself and got sad because to him, they live in different worlds and he doesn't fit into theirs. He reveals that he has thought this way since he met them 4 months ago. Ejiki asks why, and Amain comments that she imagined he might have thoughts like that. He responds that regardless, he wants to stay with them. He continues, saying that even though they live in different worlds, and even if he doesn't know if he fits in with them, he won't give up on them. That both of them are on the same level as Kiraman for him, and it's very important to spend time with them, so he can't just leave everything behind. He tells Ejiki that she doesn't seem to have anything in common with Otakis, but she always listens to others. And he says Amain seems difficult to approach, but is very emotional and loves Kiraman. He confesses that, because of all that, he loves them. The girls blush at his sudden confession. He feels happy to have said it, while they feel embarrassed. His friends ask if that's really how he feels, and he confirms it. Seo jokes that it must sound horrifying coming from him, and Ejiki says she's surprised. Amain comments that she's happy he's being so honest. Kotoko, please, says she loves the group and wants to keep their friendship and leans on Amain's shoulder, calling her name. Amain responds that she also likes the group and says that this honesty is what someone who truly loves would show. Then, correcting herself, she says she only likes it, and they all laugh at her. Seo then apologizes for causing them to worry and asks if he can stay with them. He corrects himself, saying he wants to stay with them, and they both agree. During the fireworks, the boys who had previously formed lines wonder where Amain and Anchiki are, and Cheyenne replies that it makes no sense to look for them this late. The trio is leaning against a wall, not looking at the fireworks. Seo comments that they can't see the explosions from where they are and asks if they want to go somewhere else. Both girls say it's not necessary and that they want to stay there. Throughout the explosions, the girls stand on either side and Seo silently holds both their hands. He says he intends to become someone worthy of them, and they hit him on the head. Amain tells him to stay as he is, and Ajiki says that if he changes, she'll punch him. He comments that her punches are scary, but at that moment, she remembers something. Ajiki asks Amain what the rumors about their situation will be, and Ki says that, in this case, it shouldn't matter much, while Seo doesn't understand anything. On an ordinary day, Seo is at a store and decides to take the first step toward the promise he made on the night of the fireworks, buying a gel to style his hair. He fixes his hair as best he can. Entering the classroom, he imagines that the class will ask if he got a girlfriend and comment on how cool his hair looks, but everyone just greets him normally. Sitting in his chair, and he feels defeated that no one noticed the change. Even though it was a big deal to him, it was normal to everyone else. But Ajiki stares at him. After some time, the boy agonizes in his thoughts, wondering if he used too little gel, but his classmate calls out to him. She gets up and asks if he styled his hair that day, and he gets emotional. Amain comments that he looks different, and Kotoko praises him for changing a little, but says something is missing. She then starts adjusting his hair, leaving him flustered. When a recess bell rings, everyone leaves the room. After Ki leaves, Kotoko returns to the classroom looking for him. Upon spotting him, she approaches and says she has something important to tell him. He asks what it is, and she replies that next week, on Friday, there's something. The boy asks if it's about Jason, and she replies that it's not Friday the 13th. She reveals that the date is Amain's birthday, and he's surprised he didn't know. She then says no one knows because Amain doesn't like parties or crowded places. Because of that, she plans to throw a surprise party for her with his help. Seo is amazed at the idea of spending a birthday with both of them. He jokingly asks if 100 million yen would be enough, and Kotoko says that's unnecessary. Then he says he'll help with whatever is needed, and she happily agrees. Ajiki says she wasn't going to ask for money, but they'll still need gifts, and the boy starts thinking about that. She asks if he's going to give something related to Karaman, but he replies that he already gives her that type of gift regularly, and that he can't just ask her what she would like to receive. Ajiki then decides that on Sunday, the two of them should go to the mall to get some presents. The boy agrees, and his friend says she'll contact him later. He starts thinking about whether this is a date and then receives a message from her mentioning the date. On Sunday, Seo is waiting at the mall entrance. He begins to wonder about the guest she mentioned in the message and who it could be. But at that moment, he hears voices apologizing for being late. Ajiki and Sayu arrive to meet him. The boy asks if it's really her, and Ajiki confirms it. Sayu then reveals that she thought it would be interesting to give her opinion as a family member, and Seo reflects on how mature she is. He asks Kotoko how she got Sayu's contact, and she reveals it's normal to exchange contacts with people she ends up hanging out with at some point. Sayu asks if he's disappointed that he couldn't be alone with Ajiki, but he thinks he's grateful since he would have been too nervous to be alone with her. Ajiki tells the group they should take a walk after choosing the presents, and Sayu says it's fine to go out. But she reveals she doesn't want to see any flirting between the two of them since she's a fan of the idea of Seo and Ki being together. Both of them blush, saying no flirting will happen, and Sayu says she just wants everyone to be happy. She adds that in his case, it's fine for him to be with both, leaving him completely embarrassed, and Ajiki tells them to just move along. Even together, the group struggles to find a present for Amain. Ajiki asks Sayu if Ki has been interested in anything specific, and she starts to think about it. After thinking, she simply replies Karaman, but despite that, she has something in mind. She adds that Ki is interested in quirky items and stationery that were on display in a nearby store, exciting the group. Seo thanks her for the information, and they head to the store. Once there, they begin carefully evaluating the items. After some time in the store, Sayu says she's stepping out to wash her hands, and the two decide to wait for her at the exit. In a moment of silence, Takuya realizes he's alone with his friend for the first time since the festival. But then she calls out to him. Ajiki mentions that they've been to this mall as a group with Amain and even just the two of them before. The boy agrees and says those are precious memories, and she adds that she wants to keep going out with them like that in the future. She asks if he won't leave them again and raises her pinky finger, asking him to promise, and he promises her with a pinky swear. After a brief silence, Sayu returns and tells them to stop with the romance, and Ajiki responds that it wasn't romance, just something casual. At the karaoke, Ajiki seems very excited, making her friend ask why she's so enthusiastic since she comes there all the time. Sayu then apologizes for being a bother, but Amain's two friends assure her she's not causing any trouble. Accidentally, Takuya reveals something about the present. The birthday girl, confused, asks if they're planning a surprise party for her. This leaves the boy flustered for revealing something he shouldn't have, but his blonde friend reassures him, saying the girl is an otaku and would have figured it out anyway. Handing over her present, Ajiki says she bought a floating ballpoint pen. making her friend very happy since she had been curious about how it worked. She asks how Eiji knew she wanted it, and Eiji replies that she got a tip from Sayu. Sayu then gives her gift, which is vegetable-shaped stickers, and it's the boy's turn. He presents a bookmark, and the birthday girl thanks him, saying she's surprised it's not something Kiraman-related. In response, he says he wanted to give her something she didn't already have. Relieved, the boy says it's his first time picking out a gift for someone, and that he was really worried about it. Blushing, Amain says she will keep and use the bookmark with care. Her sister asks if that happiness could mean something more, given her expression, but embarrassed, Amain denies it. Someone then asks how long she and the girl with glasses have known each other. Sayu answers that according to her memory, she was still in kindergarten, and the birthday girl says she was in her first year of high school. They looked at each other and liked each other right away. Amain wondered if she had become the little girl's older sister, while Sayu wondered if she could grow up to be like her one day. Many things happened, and they have been together ever since. Jokingly, the younger sister says that the birthday girl is very picky with food and lazy, but her personality and kindness are what make her admire her so much. Squinting, the birthday girl says that first, she's humiliated and then complimented, but it's her pride to have her as a younger sister. Takuya then tells the little girl that if she hadn't recommended the anime to the birthday girl, he wouldn't be there. Smiling, she asks if that makes her a cupid. The afternoon continues and Amain sings at karaoke, while the boy and her sister sneak away. Noticing this, the birthday girl asks her friend where the two went. In response, Ajichi says they went to the bathroom and prepares to play another song. But it was all part of the surprise, and the birthday song starts playing on the big screen. The two return through the door carrying a cake while singing the song. The girl is shocked and happy, while her friend says the strawberry cake is a gift from all three of them. She then asks how she liked the surprise. With teary eyes, the birthday girl thanks them for their thoughtfulness. While her friends laugh, her sister says they caught her off guard because they gave her the presents earlier. Outside, she thanks them again for the party they prepared. Ichiki hugs Sayu to say goodbye, while Amain tells Takuya that she'll make him cry on his birthday too and asks for the date. He says it's February 6th. The two walk together as the girl tells him never to say again that they don't fit together. He apologizes but says there are things he's come to understand. One of them is that even if he wishes time could stop, it won't, and that she and the blonde girl are popular and belong to a world different from his. And that fact is what makes him appreciate the days they spent together. Smiling, she says he's right. She adds that many things may happen in the future, but she hopes that all of them will continue to get along. With a big smile, the boy says that's his wish too. Ejiki and Sayu join the conversation and ask what they were talking about. In response, the girl says it was about the Otaku boy's birthday. The blonde girl jokes that since they're almost a year apart, he should call her Winnie-chan, but her friend retorts, saying that doesn't make her superior. The next day at school, the dark-haired boy arrives with a large bag, making his classmates wonder if it's P-Day, but he denies it. He says he's going to a sleepover, and the two classmates, relieved, walk away while he feels happy they didn't find out where he's going after class, because the sleepover is at Amain's house. Sweating nervously, he reflects that when he stayed at Genichiro's house, he had time to prepare, but this time he doesn't. As a result, all he feels is his tension increasing. His friend who sits in front of him notices him gripping the bag tightly and asks if he's wishing for school to end that much. They whisper things to each other. Noticing their movements, the host of the party asks if they're talking about going to her house and suggests they meet at the park behind the school. The boy asks why, and her friend explains that it's so no one sees them carrying their bags. Reflecting on it, he concludes that it would make them the center of attention. Adding to this, the girl says becoming a topic of conversation wouldn't be good for them. The boy agrees while wondering if this could then be considered a secret meeting. After school, they gather, and Main says they need to go to Sayu's school to pick her up, but will first stop to shop for dinner. For the party later, which will feature takoyaki, leaving the boy very excited about the idea. At the market, they have fun together while picking out the ingredients needed to make the dish. In his thoughts, Takuya says it feels like he's in Wonderland as Ajiki picks out octopus, green onions, and a different type of cheese. The two girls, excited, repeat to each other how great it is to be in sync, while the boy picks out red pickled ginger, saying it's essential. To match the group's synchronization, the long-haired girl says the ingredient isn't that necessary, but the blonde-haired girl asks him to put it in the basket, and they decide they'll figure out later whether to use it or not. The attacker then excuses himself, saying he wants to visit the section with products from his favorite anime, and Amain, excited, decides to accompany him. At another school, a trio of girls comments about two boys who seem to be waiting for someone across the street. They are shocked when Sayu approaches the boys and thanks them for waiting. In response, Kakeru and Hibiki say she's late and that they should hurry. The trio leaves and the girls wonder what kind of relationship the three might have. It's revealed that the boys are also going to the sleepover. Kakeru says he's nervous and his friend tells him not to be, as it makes him nervous too. Sayu looks back and says they're going to play Mario Kart, her favorite game, and that she won't lose, which gets the boys excited. Speaking confidently, they say they won't lose either because they're determined to give it their all in the game. The girl's phone rings and she answers her sister, saying they're on their way. On the other end of the line, her sister is annoyed by the noise the two boys are making. Later, the two groups meet at Main's house. Ajiki says she's only been there once, and her friend asks if she's serious. The girl then questions if he hasn't been there before, and he says yes, that he went there one day after school. Everyone begins preparing the food for the party, each with a different role. When the host parents arrive, the party begins with the groups gathered around the table, while the blonde girl takes several photos. Main's mother approaches and asks if she can have some of the food while greeting Takuya and telling him to make himself at home. Laughing, the woman says her daughter was very excited about the party and wouldn't stop talking about it, leaving the girl embarrassed. Flustered, Main tries to change the subject, while her friends take advantage of the situation to tease and provoke her even more. Time passes peacefully, and Sayu comments that she already feels full after eating so much. Her two friends mock her, and one of them says he can eat her portion if she wants. In response, she asks why he's looking at her like that. She says she'll add more mustard and mayonnaise. When asked if they really want it, both boys back off and Takuya asks if he can eat the leftovers. The little girl picks up the food with chopsticks and prepares to feed it to the boy, while their friends watch in surprise and her sister wonders if she should stop her. Shua and the boy says the creamy mayonnaise with a spicy kick of mustard is a perfect combination, while Sayu agrees, saying they have similar tastes. The boy's two friends then call his attention, teasingly picking up their chopsticks to push more food into his mouth. Then they redirect the food airplane style to their mouths instead, eating the dumplings and laughing, while the younger girl's friends wonder if they should try it too. An hour passes quickly, and everyone is still gathered in a circle, playing cards and having lots of fun. Hibiki loses the game, and Kakeru says his punishment will be eating a wasabi sandwich with potato chips. Ajiki then suggests that the person who came in last should feed the person who came in first. Takuya agrees with the suggestion, saying it seems fair, while Sayu, deep in thought, considers losing on purpose. Everyone agrees with the proposed idea, and one of the boys asks if the wasabi can be left out of the punishment. One of the boys wins the game and, smiling, asks who will be responsible for feeding him, while the otaku who came in last says it will be him. The game continues enthusiastically, with everyone taking turns feeding each other, laughing and having fun. Then the otaku suggests they play another game, preferably one where he has a better chance of winning this time. Main's parents observe the group's excitement from the kitchen while eating ice cream. Sayu then tells her sister that she wants ice cream. Her sister asks their mother if there's any left, but the woman says it's all gone because she and her husband ate it all. Ajuchi gets up and says she'll buy more since she needs to go to the convenience store to pick up more food anyway, and the protagonist offers to help her. The host thanks both of them with a smile and says that while they're gone, she'll make the kids take a bath and get ready for the rest of the night. At the store, the girl says she's going to buy some other personal items and asks the boy to go to the counter to pay for what they've picked up so far. Already outside, they eat sweets, and the boy says he hasn't eaten them since elementary school, while his friend reflects on how close they've become lately. She blushes as she reflects, and her friend, oblivious, can only talk about an episode of the anime they watched last week. Deciding to let him talk about whatever he wanted, the girl simply walks silently beside him, reflecting on everything as the two head back to Main's house. When they return, everyone takes a bath, puts on their pajamas, and starts the gaming tournament. They play Mario Kart, a popular racing game where 4 players can compete offline. Everyone chooses their avatars, and whoever crosses the finish line first wins ice cream. Sayu wins effortlessly, leaving her friends shocked. Her sister then explains that she becomes obsessed when she loses at something, being very competitive. Ajichi grabs a blanket and says it's time to sleep, which leaves the kids unsatisfied as they want to play another round. Main tells the boys they'll sleep in the living room and the girls in the bedroom upstairs. Takuya smiles and says goodnight. Suddenly, the 2 younger boys ask which of the 2 girls Takuya would choose to date, leaving him embarrassed. He asks what they mean by which of the 2, and the boys start saying things elementary schoolers shouldn't talk about. Kakeru stands up and says they're on Ajichi's side, so if Takuya chooses to date her, it would be interesting. Surprisingly, his brother says he prefers Main because that's what Sayu wants. Laughing, the protagonist says they really like the little girl, leaving the 2 flustered and desperately denying it, though they eventually admit they do like her. The 2 boys discuss using Sayu's picture as their chat wallpaper, while Takuya observes them, wondering how they can deny their feelings for her. Meanwhile, in the girls' room, the blonde-haired girl asks Main to show her elementary school graduation album, but Main refuses. Her younger sister then asks Ajiki if they only became friends in high school. Ajichi confirms it and insists on seeing the album, saying she'll show hers too. Interrupting the conversation, the little girl says they should gossip and then asks how far the blonde girl and Takuya have gone. She references what happened at the school festival, which leaves the blonde-haired girl embarrassed since only her friend knew about it. Saya reveals she was bluffing and didn't actually know anything, leaving the 2 girls surprised they've been tricked. Main changes the subject and asks about her sister and her friends, but Sayu denies there's anything between them. Ajichi warns her that they'll move on if she doesn't decide soon, as they're popular. In response, Sayu says that if that's the case, she should be worried about Takuya. She points out that he's become more refined and cheerful, so others must have noticed him too, which leaves the two friends worried it might be true. Surprisingly, Sayu says the blonde girl should take action, like when she thought about inviting Takuya to watch the fireworks during the festival. They get ready for bed and agree that whoever wakes up first will wake the others. Amain, concerned, asks her friend if she really thinks about having something with a dark-haired boy. In response, the blonde girl says sometimes she does, but she prefers how things are now with the three of them together. Sighing, her friend says she feels the same way. Ajiki adds that Amain has matured too, revealing that she used to be a little scared of her. Both reminisce about when they became friends and the reasons behind it, feeling nostalgic. It all happened during the high school enrollment ceremony in early April, almost a year ago, when Amain and the blonde girl exchanged glances for the first time. The long-haired girl caught the attention of the boys who were captivated by her beauty. Meanwhile, Ajiki was with her two friends, hoping to be in the same class as the new girl. To her surprise, that's exactly what happened, and in the classroom, the girl sat in the seat in front of hers. The teacher arrived and asked everyone to introduce themselves, starting with the first seat. The long-haired girl stood up, said her name, and expressed her pleasure in meeting everyone. The blonde-haired girl was impressed, thinking even her name was beautiful, but she also noticed that the girl seemed a bit intimidating. Reflecting, she wondered if the girl might be like her older sister, deciding she wanted to become her friend. It's her turn to introduce herself, and Amain is intrigued by her name and appearance. The girl seems like one of the characters from the anime Karaman, even in her mannerisms, making her perfect for cosplay. Ajiki sits down and notices she's being watched, which makes her future friend embarrassed for staring too much. The introductions end, and it's time for the break. Thinking about her seat, the blonde-haired girl wonders how she should talk to the girls sitting in front of her. But she's interrupted by Seiji and Takumi, who approach and say they'll also be high school friends. The two rush to introduce themselves to Amain as well. Coldly, the girl says it's nice to meet them, leaving them slightly scared. That's when Megu approaches and introduces herself as well. Still coldly, the girl repeats what she said to the boys. This makes Mayu question the blonde-haired girl if she did something wrong. She says no and decides to introduce herself as well, but in a loud voice. She smiles and turns back around, leaving the girl thinking she's hated, but all Amain can think about is how she smiled because it reminded her of her favorite anime character. A week passes and groups begin to form, while the two future friends maintain a mutual distance. Mayu invites Ajiki to go to karaoke with Nishi, and Ajiki immediately invites Amain to come as well. Amain says she'll think about it, and the blonde-haired girl says it's fine, while in her thoughts, she reveals she's already used to the girl's coldness. Still in her thoughts, she says that even though they don't hang out together yet, it seems like the girl is getting used to the class. At karaoke, her friend asks what's wrong, and Kotoko responds that she wished Amain had accepted the invitation and feels like she doesn't like her very much. Her friend says that's not true, as Amain might just be shy. Worried, Kotoko hopes that's really the case. At home, the long-haired girl tells her younger sister that school is going well and that she already has many friends. The little girl mocks her, saying they treat her poorly, and she retorts, saying the girl sitting behind her treats her very well. In response, Sayu says no girl would ever be nice to an otaku, which irritates her sister. She replies that they don't know that side of her. 2 weeks later, Ajichi's friends excitedly say there's no club activities today, and she asks if there's somewhere they want to go. One of the girls suggests the arcade, and the other agrees since it's close to the school. Still trying to connect, the blonde-haired girl invites the girl sitting in front of her, and Amain thinks it might be a good opportunity to make friends. Since Amain accepted the invitation, the trio of girls gets all excited. They ask if she likes Pirikura or just arcade games. Amain says it's neither. Daigo and Momoki appear and ask if they can join too. The blonde-haired girl agrees, saying the more, the merrier. The boys then decide to invite others, and Aijichi reflects that even though it's no longer just a girls' outing, it can still be fun for everyone to become friends. After school, everyone meets up, and one of the girls asks why the boys are there. In response, Kotoko says she invited them. Annoyed and feeling deceived, Amain thinks she wouldn't have come if she'd known there'd be boys. Meanwhile, the blonde-haired girl thinks Amain seems comfortable and feels happy to have brought together even people she doesn't interact with much at school. The outing ends and everyone says goodbye in front of the arcade. Ajiki runs after the long-haired girl and thanks her for coming, saying the gathering was a lot of fun. Amain reveals she only came because she thought it would be a girls' outing, and her future friend apologizes. But Amain says she was disappointed and tells her to stop assuming everyone will be happy to go out together, saying she should have asked her beforehand. As she says goodbye, Amain adds that she won't agree to go out with her again, which leaves the blonde-haired girl nervous and thinking she completely ruined everything. At home, the long-haired girl thinks she said too much, and that it will be awkward when she sees Kotoko the next day. She fears that Kotoko and the other girls will ignore her or start gossiping about her through messages. Trying to calm herself, she thinks the group wouldn't do something like that, but if they did, it would be her fault. Lying on her bed, she laments but concludes that she wasn't the only one at fault in the situation because they should have warned her beforehand. Sad and afraid of never being invited to anything again, she decides to look at some Kiraman fan art before going to sleep. The next day, the teacher calls attendance and notices that Ajiki is absent. Ame becomes even more worried, wondering if it's because of her, while the two girls from the trio ask if she knows anything. They reveal that the blonde-haired girl was really excited to go out with her yesterday and even made a list of topics to discuss during the outing. They also mention that she asked one of them to make sure she wouldn't be left out and would have a lot of fun. Ame feels terrible upon hearing this and thinks to herself that she was the one who lacked consideration in the situation. Maya receives a message from Ajiki saying she didn't attend class because she had to take care of her sick little brothers, while Ame decides to apologize for what happened. At home, the blonde-haired girl takes care of her younger brothers, Kakeru and Hibiki, who have finally fallen asleep. Thinking to herself, she says she needs to find a way to apologize to the long-haired girl, but she's interrupted when someone rings the doorbell. When she opens the door, she sees her future best friend, who says she got her address from Mayu, apologizing for showing up out of the blue but mentioning she had sent a message. In response, Ajiki says it's been a busy day and she hadn't had time to check her phone. Ame asks if her brothers are okay while handing her a bag. Ajiki asks if she came over just for that. Trying to find the right words, Ame simply apologizes for how she acted the day before. She admits that she doesn't feel comfortable around boys, but says that doesn't justify how she treated her. Surprised, Kotoko says she doesn't need to apologize because she was the one who was wrong for not warning her that more people would be there. Trying to make peace, she asks Ame to stop apologizing so they can move on and put the situation behind them. Ame thanks her for her attitude. She says that her friends told her about all the effort Kotoko put into making the outing perfect, which made her very happy. So that's something she should thank her for too. Crying, the blonde-haired girl says she was scared Ame would hate her after everything. In response, her future friend says she doesn't hate her and invites her to go out again because she wants to get along with her. Smiling, Kotoko tells her she can just call her by her last name. The two shake hands, officially becoming friends. One of Ajichi's brothers wakes up and calls for her. Ame then says goodbye and they agree to see each other at school the next day. The two began going everywhere together and became known as the best GYARUS in Class 1A. Then came the first seat change since the start of the school year. Ame noticed she was far from her friend and decided to move closer, while Kotoko asked if she was feeling lonely. Ame denied it and said she only sat there to be more comfortable, but her friend said in that case, the seat by the back window would be better. Then came the big day in mid-May when Kotoko realized she forgot her eraser somewhere. She decided to borrow the eraser from the person sitting behind her, who turned out to be none other than Takuya. That's when Ame noticed the eraser was from the anime Kiraman and was exclusive to the new series, meaning the boy was a big fan. The otaku boy told Ajiki he didn't know there were other fans like him at school, which made Ame, afraid of being rejected by her friends, ignore the situation. Turning forward, she listened silently as the boy talked more about the character on the eraser. But when he said the character first appeared in episode 4, she couldn't help herself and corrected him, saying the character actually appeared in episode 2. Thus began, in a simple and unassuming way, the story of the friendship that would unite and change the destiny of the trio. Coming out of her memories, Ajiki thinks about how it's already been half a year since it all began. Her friend agrees and says everything happened in the blink of an eye. Still reflective, Ame thanks the blonde-haired girl for inviting her out that day. Because even though she experienced unpleasant feelings, she also learned a lot from the situation. As if someone had done to her what she did to the blonde-haired girl, she would never have tried to get close again. Smiling, she compliments Kotoko and says she understands why everyone likes her. In response, her friend says she isn't as praiseworthy as she thinks, which leaves her confused. Hugging her knees, Kotoko confesses that she does all of that for her own benefit. She explains that she wants to please others to avoid being disliked. That way, everything she does is also convenient for her. Sighing, she adds that, in the end, she's always thinking about herself and noticing the awkward atmosphere. Apologizes. She tells Ame not to worry about it. Standing up, the long-haired girl grabs her friend's shoulders and says she was serious when she said Kotoko saved her. She then reveals her biggest secret. She's also an otaku. In response, Kotoko says she already knew. Even embarrassed, Ame continues her story and reveals that in middle school, she couldn't talk to anyone. She forced herself to get through life because, as an introvert with a scary face, she thought high school would be more of the same. But then Kotoko accepted her and stayed by her side even after she vented her frustrations in such a harsh way. To her, that's more than enough. In response, her friend smiles and says that if Ame is happy, she is too. Kotoko then assures Ame she won't tell anyone about her secret, leaving her embarrassed for confessing it. Curious, she asks Ame why she hides being an otaku. In response, Ame says it would completely change how people see her. Optimistically, Kotoko says she wants to try to change. Her friend asks if she wants to change how people see them. Surprised that her friend agrees to work as a pair, Ame recalls that since they met, they stopped using formalities when saying each other's names. So the next step would be to call each other by their first names. Ame gets ahead and calls her Kotoko. This makes both of them burst into laughter, ending the night. The next morning, the blonde-haired girl yells that they stayed up too late and overslept. As they head downstairs, Ame asks why Sayu didn't wake them up as they had agreed. On the couch, Takuya watches the kids playing video games and greets the two girls. The little girl says she tried to wake them, but they were in such a deep sleep, probably because they stayed up late talking. In the kitchen, Amane's mother says breakfast is ready, making them happy, and the blonde-haired girl asks her friend to feed her. The dark-haired boy observes how well the two friends are getting along more than usual. They notice him staring, and Ajiki asks if he wants to be fed too. Amane then suggests they try calling the boy by his first name as well, and her friend agrees. They try, but realize that Otaku-kun sounds better. With everyone getting closer, including the trio of kids, the sleepover ends without any incidents. At Sayu's elementary school, her friends excitedly ask who the boys were with her the previous day, and she says they're brothers of her sister's friend. At the high school, Mayu braids Ejichi's hair while they talk about Christmas approaching. Two boys approach and, like reporters, ask the blonde-haired girl if she has plans for the holiday. Her friend, laughing, says she does before she can say no. She announces that the girls' party will be in front of the Christmas lights at the park near the station. Improvising, Mayu says the place is super famous, even though she's never been there, and her friend says it'll be a girls-only event. One of the boys then says he wants to find a girlfriend so he can join the party, and his friend suggests that confessing to someone during the holiday is also an option. Mayu likes the idea and says it must be amazing to be hugged in front of the Christmas lights, making her friend laugh. But in her thoughts, she imagines that situation with Takuya. However, she realizes they wouldn't be alone since Amane would also be there, which would be awkward. The three of them would have to hug in front of the lights, turning it into a team gathering. Smiling, the dark-haired boy arrives and finds Ki looking worried, flipping through a book while mumbling. Curious, he asks what's going on. Explaining, she says she heard from Class B that they'll have an English test during the first period, so she needs to study as much as possible. Shying and noticing their conversation, quietly asks if Ki and Takuya are close. Trying to study, she says she's busy at the moment, but that she and Takuya aren't that close, which makes the girl ask why she treats him differently from other boys. In response, she says it's because he and her younger sister like the same anime, which made her get used to his presence. Smiling, the girl thinks that either way, she's happy for her and wonders if they might start dating if they continue like this. But on second thought, she says out loud that it won't happen because she already has Aijichi, which makes Amane nervous and confused. Annoyed, Amane tells her that if she doesn't need to study, she should sit down. The test ends, and outside, the blonde-haired girl tells her friend not to worry about the grade. At home, Takuya watches Kiraman and is shocked to see a personalized blanket, wishing he could have it. But when he checks his wallet, he realizes he doesn't have any money. He decides to get a part-time job that accepts people with no prior experience. As he refocuses on the TV, he realizes that the reason he's out of money is because for the first time he got to go out with his friends, concluding that he needs to give the girls a gift as a gesture of gratitude. Back at school, he checks his phone for job openings when Ajiki asks what he's looking for. The boy explains and shows her a warehouse job that seems promising. Looking at his phone, the girl sees an opening at a bakery and suggests they work together at the same place. She reveals that working at a bakery has been her dream since she was a child. Amane says she thinks she'd want the same thing, which isn't true, and the boy says he doesn't remember. Intrigued, the long-haired girl asks if her friend really wants to work at a bakery. Kotoko confirms, and Amane tells her she might end up gaining weight. She explains that someone she knows who works part-time at a bakery eats a lot because of employee discounts. Takuya says he'll try for the warehouse job, and Kotoko asks if Amane doesn't want to work. Amane responds that she already does occasionally. Noticing the shocked expressions on her friends' faces, she says she's capable of working too. She explains that her mom is a hairstylist and makeup artist, so she sometimes helps at the salon during events, in addition to doing some modeling gigs. Her friend says she'd like to see photos of the event where the dark-haired boy also helped her, but Amane vehemently refuses. Adding that she won't apply for the job, Ajiki says it will just be her and Takuya, but Takuya reiterates that he's not good at customer service. In response, Kotoko tells him that if he keeps saying things like that, he won't pass the interview, which makes him panic. To help, her friend asks Amane to interview them as practice, and Amane asks why she needs to do it. Her friend replies that it's because she already has experience, and the dark-haired boy says that if she agrees, he'd like to practice a bit. Seated, they start the mock interview, while Ajiki thinks it feels more like a date. She tells her friend to go hard with the questions because Takuya needs to do well even under stress. Amane says she doesn't know how to do it properly. The blonde-haired girl takes charge and starts conducting the mock interview. But Amane says it doesn't make sense to do this since, being among friends, they won't feel nervous like in a real interview. Kotoko then asks Mayu for help as she's not as close to the boy and already has part-time job experience. Thinking about the suggestion, Mayu says that if the interviewer is a delicate girl like her, the boy will disregard her, like her friend calls her out, pointing out that she's already succeeded because the boy is already panicking. Ajiki encourages the boy, saying he can get through it. Smiling, Mayu agrees to the plan and the interrogation begins in the classroom. Changing the topic, the girl asks Takuya if he likes the blonde-haired girl, and Kotoko asks why she's asking that. In response, Mayu says she's been curious about it lately. Cheyenne joins the conversation and asks the boy if he and Amane are dating. Amane tells them to stop because he can't even speak from embarrassment. The blonde-haired girl then tells her friend to take it seriously because they really want to get accepted for the job. She complies and the interview officially begins. On the final question, Cheyenne asks if he wants to work to buy a gift for his girlfriend. Ijiki and Amae, noticing the girl's interest, recall what Sayu said during the sleepover night. They quickly wrap up the mock interview and Mayu prepares to give the results. With a smile, she announces that the boy passed, explaining that most job offers come from places with few people, so he just needs to answer well. The boy thanks her, and his blonde-haired friend says they can now apply for the bakery job, but he reminds them he's going for the warehouse position. However, checking her phone, Cheyenne reveals that the application period for that job has already ended. Thus, the two end up at the cake shop. Takuya notices how his friend looks great in an apron. Feeling tired, he no longer remembers how he ended up there or how he passed the interview. That happened an hour earlier when he and the girl arrived at the location, which seemed to be a small shop run by a couple. Upon entering, they were greeted by a mustachioed man dressed as a chef with a stained apron and a knife in hand. The boy panics, thinking it's the end for him, and his friend says it's not a sci-fi movie. They introduce themselves, and a woman appears, saying she's happy they came. The four sit at a table, and the woman apologizes for her husband's demeanor, explaining that the stains on his apron are actually strawberry. She adds that he may look intimidating, but is very popular with the neighborhood kids. At that moment, a woman and two children enter the shop. Excited, the kids ask the cake gangster to show them his infinite strawberry slash. Surprised, the dark-haired boy says the man is truly loved by children, while Ijiki notes that the shop is very cherished in the area. The woman excuses herself, saying they'll conduct the interview once the customers are served. A little while later, the questions begin, and the woman asks the blonde-haired girl why she wants to work there. She explains that working at a bakery has been her childhood dream, and she loves cakes and the cozy atmosphere of the shop. The couple quickly hires her. The same question is posed to Takuya, who says he wants to gain experience, which is why he applied. The man says he doesn't feel the boy's love for cakes, and the boy, startled, apologizes. His friend tries to help, mentioning that he's very skilled with his hands and made beautiful costumes for the school festival. The woman responds that the boy's tasks will be light, like working the register and wrapping cakes. The mustachioed man then asks the boy to be honest and talk about what he loves. Blurting out, the boy says he wants to work because he wants to give gifts to special people in his life and also for himself. Smiling, the chef says he now feels the love and hires him. The woman asks if they have some time for her to take measurements for their uniforms, and they confirm that they do. The next day, they're in their uniforms, and the owner takes the opportunity to explain more about their duties. At the end of the shift, they receive gifts along with their pay and express their gratitude for the lessons learned. On their way home, the two talk about how happy they are to have passed the interview, and the boy says he couldn't have done it alone. Ijiki then asks who the special people were that he mentioned earlier. He stammers while trying to answer, and his friend wonders if she was too direct, but still wants to know if it's just a meme or someone else. With the boy's silence, she asks if he got a girlfriend, but he immediately denies it. Relieved, the girl listens as her friend explains that she and the long-haired girl are the only people he would consider special. Blushing, she ends the conversation while wondering why her heart is beating so fast. At school the next day, the other three girls congratulate the duo on their achievement. The boy thanks them and gives them cookies as a gift for their help. As they eat, they note how delicious they are and say they'll buy from the shop next time. That's when Shin pulls out a piece of paper from her bag that appears to be the shop's menu. Curious, Amae asks if they need to memorize the entire menu. The boy denies it, and Ijiki explains that since they work there, knowing the products they sell is the best option. The long-haired girl asks if it wouldn't be easier to just scan the barcodes, but her friend explains that the receipts are handwritten. Knowing her friend, Amae says she knows he hasn't memorized the cake names, and he admits it's difficult because they all look similar and have foreign names. Unlike the blonde-haired girl, who says she has memorized most of them. A quiz begins and the girls start testing what Takuya has learned so far. Amae asks a question related to Kiraman and her friend protests, saying it doesn't count because the boy likes the anon. Meanwhile, Cheyenne and Mayu ask for more cookies. On their first day at work, a manager welcomes them and tells them not to be nervous, noticing the tension emanating from Takuya. She explains that, as agreed, he will handle packaging cakes and working the register. Worried, the boy reveals that he hasn't managed to memorize all the names. The chef reassures him, saying it's not a problem because the name of each cake is displayed in the showcase, so he just needs to take a look. He feels relieved while his friend thinks she memorized all the names for nothing. The chef leaves, saying that if they need anything, they'll be in the kitchen, so they just have to call. Takuya tries to calm down, recalling how to do his tasks. Customers start arriving, and in panic, the boy says he can't do it. His friend reassures him, saying it's just the first day. The chef appears, and the boy apologizes, saying he shouldn't have said that inside the shop. To comfort him, the man says he was like that in the past and didn't love cakes. His only love was weightlifting. But after that phase, he ate such an incredible cake that he decided on the same day to dedicate his life to pastry. Ijiki then jokes that even if the boy doesn't love what he's doing now, if he keeps working, he'll become a cake gangster like the chef. However, the man denies it. The manager says it's not necessary to have a love for cakes, It's enough to have love and treat customers well, and everything will go smoothly, leaving the boy deep in thought. The next day, he shows up wearing a helmet from his favorite anime, saying it will be fun for the kids. His friend agrees but asks if he'll attend to other customers like that, while the manager says he loves the idea because now he feels the love. Two children arrive with their father and are delighted to see the boy, saying that the shop is amazing. They start placing their orders, referring to Takuya as Lord Terra, showing that his strategy really worked. Kotoko observes and remembers how people wear head accessories during Christmas service, feeling happy that her friend managed to do something on his own and relax. Her thoughts are interrupted when the boy declares that working at a bakery is his true calling. At school, Amain tells Ajiki that Takuya said they're enjoying their new job. Her friend confirms and says she took cool photos to show everyone. The girls start wondering why the boy is in cosplay and whether the pastry chef is actually a butcher. Mayu says she's glad they're doing well, and Amain asks how many hours they're working. Her friend replies that the shift is 3 hours. But with Christmas approaching, business might get busier and they'll have to work 5 hours. One of the girls reminds Kotoko not to forget that they plan to see the lights during the holiday, and she says she'll be there. The girl then tells the dark-haired boy that boys aren't allowed, so he can only join them the day after. Thoughtfully, Amain pulls her two friends aside and asks if they have time after work on Christmas Eve. She suggests it would be nice for the three of them to spend some time together. Happy, her friends immediately agree because it's rare for her to invite them to do something. They then decide to study for the final exams happening the next day. After the test, they sigh in exhaustion. Takuya, looking at his friend's chair, asks if that's the Kiraman character blanket. Smiling, she says she couldn't resist buying products like that. She reveals that she wanted to buy it first to show it to him. He says he was planning to do the same. Excited, the girl asks if he wants to do an unboxing with Aichichi, but he apologizes, saying they both have to work and can only do it during the holidays. At the door, the blonde-haired girl appears and calls him to leave. Takuya bids farewell to his friend, saying he'll see her tomorrow. Left alone, Namain reflects that she was the one who refused the job and refuses to feel lonely. Shine appears and asks if she's jealous, but annoyed, she denies it. The girl continues and says she understands her because during Christmas time, everyone just wants company, making the young woman reflect on whether that's really what she's feeling. Her friend tells her not to worry, saying she'll find a way to leave her alone with Aichichi. In response, the young woman says that their relationship isn't what she thinks it is. At the cafe, Kotoko was cleaning the tables after the customers left. The door opens again, startling her as all her classmates walk in, complimenting the place. However, they are shocked when they see Seo wearing the Lord Terra helmet. The boys comment that he looked familiar, and Kotoko explains that it's Takuya. He greets everyone, stammering. They are surprised to learn they work together, but quickly move on, inviting Kotoko to various places, making the boy realize how popular she is. He feels disoriented, but working alongside his friend is amazing. The job is fun, and the people are kind. He's grateful she invited him. As her classmates leave, saying goodbye to Kotoko, Takuya notices she's being watched. She asks him what's wrong, wondering if he's worried about losing his job. He responds that his friend always keeps her promises, and it's nice to be there. Smiling, Ajichi says she's reserved for Amain and him. His heart skips a beat, and she mentions that the 24th will be a busy day because the manager said he's concerned. He thinks that if the man said that, it must be serious. At the end of their shift, they bid farewell to the other staff member and leave together. Walking together to her house, Sue looks up at the sky and comments that it's winter. His friend asks if he prefers summer, but he says he likes both, though he prefers winter. It feels cleaner, and the scenery always seems to sparkle. He feels happy walking like that. Arriving at her house, Kotoko thanks him for walking her home and says goodbye. As she watches him leave, she thinks about how natural it feels for him to walk her home and stay by her side. These things leave her feeling confused. She starts to wish her house were farther away, but she quickly regrets it and decides to go inside. Her brothers comment that her face is red, and she says it's just the cold. The next day, her brothers visit her at work. Genichiro comments on how elegant the place is. Kakeru says she always comes home with a strange face, and Hibiki asks if she's having fun there. The little ones start saying their sister should be in costume, and the eldest intervenes, explaining their misunderstanding. He goes to greet her. Entering, he sees the boys and the manager with a stained apron, thinking the cafe is very strange. Scared, he thinks the stains on the man's clothes are blood and says it's a dangerous place. But Siu speaks up, introducing the manager. Her brothers tease the boy for also being there, making their sister question why they're looking at her so strangely. When they try to ask their brother for something, he doesn't respond. He's staring at the manager because of his muscles. Taking the man's hand, he asks him to take care of his sister, and the other responds that it's an honor. Everyone comments on how well they get along. Genichiro places an order to go. He acts strangely when it comes to mussels. Seeing the order, his sister says it's too much, but the boys pretend they'll eat it. Exposing their lie, the man comments that they're going to see Sayu, making the boys irritated. They confront him for revealing their plans, and he says it's slipped out. The girl comments that this is why they hid their plans, and they say she was the one who called them. In retaliation, the little ones say the eldest also has plans to meet a girl he likes. Then he carries them out, wishing them a Merry Christmas. On a day off, Seo went shopping for gifts for everyone. using his first paycheck. The woman gives him an envelope saying it's a bit late, but it's his paycheck to buy presents, as it'd be too late if she gave it after Christmas. The manager says it's his Christmas gift. The boy thanks him emotionally. The chef asks if he'll buy a gift for Ijichi. He says yes, and for someone else too. They tease him, calling him a playboy. At the store, he starts looking for gifts for his friends and reads the recommendations. Both girls are elegant, so he's worried about buying something that wouldn't suit their style. He begins to question himself when he notices something on the counter nearby. Getting closer, he's certain it'll be perfect. The next day, the woman asks the boy what he chose as a gift. When he shows it to the couple, they comment that it's beautiful and they can feel his sentiment in it. Kotoko arrives at the place asking why everyone is smiling and what they're talking about. The three of them say it's a secret, leaving her annoyed. Seo and his friend are surprised to see Sato and Matsuda's names on the board. Looking at it, they ask if they're dating. They begin to comment that lately they've been coming and going together. Another person asks how it happened, and the girl simply says that the boy made her feel calm. Before she realized it, she had fallen in love. The girl starts to think about herself while hearing this as Mayu teases her friend and the couple shares their story. She continues reflecting on how similar her feelings are. At the end of class, the young woman calls out to her friend, but he says he can't go with her because he's in charge of cleaning the classroom and asks if she can go alone. Slightly surprised, she answers yes. As she leaves the classroom, she thinks about the time when work ends and how they won't be able to walk back together. So she turns back and calls his attention. She says it's better if they go together, so she'll wait until he finishes. The boy agrees and says it won't take long. Their classmates ask why he's going out with the girl, and he explains that they work at the same place, piquing their interest. Later, at the cafe, work was hectic. Ijichi comments that she's tired because of the many customers, and her colleague remarks that a lot of people would come on the 23rd, but the 24th would be almost double. The manager comes in, commenting that the next day will be hell. The teenagers joke that the situation keeps getting worse. The woman says it's tiring but fun, and their customers are happy. The four make a promise to work hard so the customers can have a great Christmas. Then she dismisses them because there's no more activity. While the boy is talking to her, the girl sees the cosplay headpiece and gets an idea. In the locker room, Seo asks his friend if he can come in, and she agrees. When he enters, he sees his friend dressed like him and wearing the Lord Terra headpiece. Since she has the Terra head on, she says she's going to start spinning, and her friend thinks she's acting that way because she's tired. She apologizes but says she wanted to wear it just once. The boy comments that Lord Terra would also be happy. His friend remarks that it's hard to breathe, especially near the mouth area. Thinking about that, she imagines it would be an indirect kiss and visualizes the scene. Immediately pulling off the headpiece, she says it's hot and stuffy. While the boy removes his uniform, she torments herself alone about the situation. It's December 24th, the beginning of winter vacation, making the students happy. The girls talk about going out, but since she has work, Kotoko can't join them and says goodbye. She and Main wave to each other as they part ways. At the cafe, Ijichi puts on a Christmas-themed dress. Her friend is also dressed up, and the manager comments that they should decorate the place before opening. The cafe is adorned with a Christmas tree and decorations on the walls. They're delighted, and the boy comments that, as a customer, he'd be happy to see it. The manager says that's the goal, that the work will be intense, and it's essential to keep smiling, but the two doubt his words. However, the man reinforces his statement, leaving them worried. Many people, many reservations, and the customers keep coming. Thanks to the decorations, many people seem happy, and they try to smile as well. Despite hearing some complaints, their boss was right. It felt like hell. At the end of the shift, the two are exhausted. Kotoko comments that it was busy and hard but fun. Their boss says the next day will be quieter, so they can rest peacefully. She tells her friend that they can see the lights with a main, and he says he worked hard for that, then asks where they should meet, but before she can answer, they're interrupted. Kei arrives at the cafe greeting them. The woman asks the girl to sit and wait for the two. The manager jokes that he can't leave any of his girlfriends out, and the boy responds that they're just friends. Smiling, the man says they seem special to him because if they weren't, he wouldn't be with them on the night of the 24th. The boy reflects on his words and realizes they truly are special to him. When he sees them dressed up that night, he's captivated by their beauty. He begins to think about what he means to them. That night, the three are together to see the lights. The girls comment on how beautiful it is, and the boy thinks they're beautiful too. Soon, they decide to take a photo. They take a great picture in front of the big Christmas tree. Afterward, they decide to record a video of the place. Ijichi sits down to rest, and her friend asks if she was feeling very emotional. The boy asks if they could take a break. Since they stop, the friend gives them each a can of coffee, leaving them both gratefully emotional. She apologizes for it being a little cold, but they don't mind and decide to eat together. The three toast with the coffee. The girl apologizes, saying they must be exhausted after work, but they assure her it's fine and that they're happy. Her friend asks if she felt lonely and embarrassed. The other tries to deny it. Hugging her, she says she also missed spending time together, and the boy comments that he was looking forward to it. Without looking at them, she starts to confess. However, she quickly changes the subject and asks them to just keep eating. Her friend tells her not to feel embarrassed. The square was full of people. The boy comments that the night is packed even though Christmas is on the 25th, and Key says it's a great day for parents to buy presents. Kotoko asks if Santa Claus will show up again this year. Her friends look at each other and say yes if she's been a good girl, but she quickly comments that her parents still gave her presents even in her first year. Seo asks if her parents didn't tell her about Santa's budget each year. She says that, at her house, even though they're aware of the truth, they still follow the Santa Claus tradition. But since her brothers are around, she feels like they'll get something. She then asks Amain what it's like in her house. Amain responds that they go out to buy clothes and wear them for a family dinner. Her friend then comments on the outfit she's wearing. Taking off her coat enthusiastically, she shows off the outfit she got as a gift and talks about how beautiful it is. Seo gets flustered by the way she took off the coat and panics, while the girls discuss the outfit. It's time to leave since it's almost 11 at night. It's time for the boy to give his gift. Nervous, he starts thinking about how he should give it to them. Even though he wrote something and practiced, he hadn't thought of whether to deliver it in a friendly or romantic way, but he had to do it before they left. However, it begins to snow, capturing everyone's attention. Takuya looks at them and calls for their attention. Lowering his head, he reveals the gifts and asks them to accept them. They're surprised by the gesture. Nervous, the boy stumbles over his words but decides to say everything at once. Now with determination, he declares how lucky he is to have met them and how happy he is because of it. Surprised, they listen closely to what he has to say. That year had been so much fun, and his life had improved thanks to his friends. Thus, he thanks them for the past year and the years to come, hoping they'll continue to be together. Embarrassed, he pulls out his phone and asks them to forget what he just said, offering to review his notes on the phone. They look at each other. Exun relaxes and calls his name. Laughing, he comments that it's exactly what she expected from him, and Kotoko bursts into laughter, though they're curious to read what he wanted to say. They ask him to send it later. Seo sends the message, but to protect his privacy, the content is omitted. His friends ask if they can open the gifts and are surprised to see scarves. Ejiki thanks him and immediately puts hers on because it's cold. The other girl notices something on hers. It's a beautiful moon brooch. Her friend says hers has a sun. Then the boy interrupts. Takuya explains that he made them, leaving the girls astonished and full of questions about how he managed it. One of them comments that it looks like nail hardening gel, and the other asks if he made the designs. He says yes. Amain was cool and elegant like the light. Ejichi was radiant and energetic like the sun. That was the image they gave him. Both thank him and are delighted with the gift. The boy is happy, but they begin whispering to each other about something. Shortly after, they wish him a Merry Christmas and he hands him a gift, shocking him. Kei comments that her friend told her the boy was preparing a gift, and they didn't want him to be the only one surprised. The boy thanks them, embarrassed. From Amain, he receives a hat, and from Ejichi, hand cream and lip balm. She says the scent of the products is nice and worth trying, and the other asks him to wear the hat. He puts it on, and they all approve of the gifts. On the way back, Kei reaches her house, and the boy walks the other girl to hers. She bids farewell to her friend, saying she'll see her the next day. The girl looks at the boy and says she'll see him after New Year's at the Winter Comic-Con, and he asks her to invite him. Right after, she turns and asks if it was okay to go there, but she says her friend already knew and had enjoyed that year a lot. That from now on, they would go together, and with that, she bids farewell to the two of them. They continue walking toward their destination. Kotoko comments that the next day would be their last day of temporary work and how quickly the time had passed. Her friend agrees and says there's little time left until the new year. Looking down, embarrassed, she asks if, even without work, they could still walk home together sometimes. Smiling, the boy says they could. Happier, she responds that it's good. As they talk, she thinks about how happy she is to walk home with him in the upcoming year, how peaceful the time is with him, and how she wants it to last forever. At that moment, she stops and realizes something as she looks at him. She had fallen in love with her friend without even realizing it. On the afternoon of the 25th, the kids thank their boss for the support, and he says they can always count on him. The woman says that's the only day, but if they ever feel lonely, they can visit them anytime. Emotional, the boy says he would come back to buy from them. Ejiki doesn't know what to do. She can't look at the boy's face or concentrate on her work. Putting on the headpiece, Sue says they should do their best. Her friend agrees. And so the rest of the afternoon passes at the cafe. At night, the owners bid farewell to the young workers, and as they walk back together, they comment on how many gifts they received this time. The boy invites her to the Winter Comic-Con, but she declines as she'll be at her grandparents' house. Downcast, he asks if they'd only see each other after the new year. She says she'll always send him messages, but he says he's starting to feel a little lonely. Arriving in her friend's house, they both say goodbye and wish each other a happy new year. The next day, she goes out with her friends and they take a selfie together. They compliment the girls' scarves and brooches. Then they start walking around, browsing the shops. Mayo and Summery run off to look at items in the stores, leaving the two of them alone. Kei comments that their friends didn't want to see the lights but rather shop. The other comments that everything was beautiful. Soon after, they bring up the topic of their last day at work. Pausing the conversation, her friend gets serious and calls out to the other. Without looking at her, she confesses that she likes Takuya. Shocked, Amain turns to her friend and asks again, to which she nods with her eyes closed. Now facing her, she asks if she loves him. Looking straight ahead, she nods affirmatively again. Amid the crowd, the friends look at each other in silence. So the video ends here. If you don't want to miss the next part, activate the notification bell, and see you next time on Tob's channel.